What's up? I'm Alex, the Entrepreneur, and for a couple of minutes, I'll be doing some technical tests to figure out if I'm actually live. Thank you for joining me. This is a Q&A on a lazy Sunday, amazing weather, the ideal weather to just do very little. And the audio quality seems good. I'm just gonna check real quick on my iPad. Amazing. Awesome. Love it. Okay. And we come live from Milan, Italy, after a very interesting week. And I'm going to start sharing my screen as well, which I launched a new video with a lot more editing, which is kind of going to be a transition piece into me working with just with higher quality editing and stuff, which is it's definitely a goal of mine. So I'm gonna pull up the chat here on my other device. And ciao Berlino, how you doing? And if you have a question or you want to just chat, I'm just gonna do that. And I'll pull up Miro as a way to make notes. My ideal goal with this is to give back while I basically crowdsource ideas for videos. So I'm very open to any topic, but at the same time, I want to try and get some notes while I talk, so that way I can then turn it into a video. So big topics that we could cover today will be the GraphQL versus loading, which I actually want to do an experiment because I don't think it's as obvious as you may think. So let me see if I can do this without leaking my stuff. So I released a video 2 days ago talking about how to improve Strapi's loading. And you can check this video out in my channel. And the main point that came up is that GraphQL will be a valid alternative to REST in order to optimize loading. And that's a fact. That's a fact. So I'm 100% with it. And I'll actually let you in on a secret. I already knew. So that what I did in this video is after the summary, I put a flash. I just never said it, but I just put a flash here. So if you pause frame on this video, you'll actually see that there's me telling you that you could also just use GraphQL, which I thought it was funny. But I'm actually not as convinced of using GraphQL when it comes to Strapi. And the reason why is because you're still going to have to go through your controllers. So something you want to keep in mind in GraphQL versus REST is that GraphQL still has to go through your controllers. So that means that even if you optimize GraphQL, you're still going to have to go through your controllers. Cookie va implementato lato server. Okay, so I'm going to answer your question, Berlino, but I'm going to answer it in English. Hopefully that's okay with you. But yeah, so something you want to keep in mind is that again, GraphQL will only optimize the payload, and it will improve your workflow because you're just going to get the data that you need. But you're still going to have to go through your controllers, which means that you still have to optimize those, because if Strapi controllers takes a long amount of time, you're still going to be delayed. So that's something that I would like to explore, and I'm thinking of making a follow-up video, which is probably going to be the optimize loading with GraphQL. And maybe we can do like a quick demo of setting up Apollo plus Strapi, something like that. Maybe we can do like a quick demo, and then we can also optimize loading and what's it called, payload size. So that's something we can look into. At this point, we have a question from Berlino. Berlino is asking, Strapi doesn't implement HTTP only cookie. Well, Strapi doesn't implement any HTTP cookie at all. So when it comes to authentication, Strapi doesn't implement any HTTP only cookies. What this means is that like your app receives no cookies from Strapi. And more specifically, this means that it's on you how you will store the JWT token that Strapi uses. Something else that you need to keep in mind is that Strapi doesn't offer refresh tokens. So what does this all mean? It means that your JWT is a static 30-day lasting, static meaning that it doesn't track a session. And it's a static 30-day lasting cookie, or sorry, token that basically is used for authenticity verification. That's basically what it's used for. So that means that if you need to store authentication on the servers, on the client side, you have a myriad of options, but the basic options that you have are storing it ephemerally, aka get one per user session. So every time I refresh the page, you're gonna have to get me a new token. That would be one alternative, and this is the safest. Then you have an option in which you store it in the cookies, and then you have an option in which you store it in localhost. In local storage. So you can have these three options. So when it comes to the second two options, storing in cookie or local storage, you open yourself to a vulnerability. So if your app is vulnerable to XSS, which is cross-site scripting, that means that other scripts can steal your token, either via cookies or local storage. So that's the problem. What type of solutions you have? When it comes to local storage, you don't have a solution. So you can't use local storage. So basically you cannot use local storage if you are concerned with this. So if you have any level of security, you're not going to use local storage. Then the solution would be to use cookies. The problem is if you use cookies and the cookies are not HTTP only, then again, any script can access them. Which again is a problem because now anybody can steal your cookies. So the only option you're left with is to have a HTTP only cookie that store in a server basically. So in order to do that, you're gonna have to serve your front end through a server. And that's something that we explore in the project that I show you in the complete Strapi course. There are alternatives to this, but this is kind of the general idea. The general idea is that if you want to store this JWT token, you're gonna have to store it in a cookie that is handled by a server. And then you're gonna risk getting cross-site request forgery. You're gonna have other security risks, and you're gonna have to deal with those. And the only way to deal with those will be to just do it properly for a server. My 2 cents when it comes to authentication with Strapi, like every day that passes, I keep believing this more and more. Like my 2 cents on Strapi for auth is to not use it. Like just do not use it. Like this, like as a teacher, like as a practical man, as an entrepreneur, as a developer, I've used Strapi for authentication. I probably will use it. But as a teacher, that's literally my 2 cents. Just don't use it. Don't use Strapi for authentication. Just build some other authentication system around it, such as using Auth0, or you can use Magic.link. And I personally really like Magic.link. And the reason why is that I guess first of all, I have experience using it, and I also have experience using Auth0. And so my personal developer experience has been better with Magic.link because they only do one thing, but they do it really well. So I highly recommend it. And the reason why, again, is the just how intuitive it was to use it. You also get a Ethereum wallet with every account, which is something that is because Magic is more related to a crypto crowd. But that's a very that's probably a very useful thing as we keep like we turn this technology into the mainstream. So also kind of passwords are lame and they're fast. So you probably will be better off just using something like this. I'm gonna check my volume. Doesn't sound awful. Sounds okay. This is gonna be my laziest stream. So I'm happy to take questions from the crowd. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go on a rant. Let me see what other topics I have to cover, by the way. Video to make on forgot password. There seems to be a bunch of bugs on forgot password, so I'll definitely wait a second on that. Then we have lifecycle methods for Strapi. That's first something I can cover today. And I think there's another topic that I had to cover, but I can't think of it. But I'll start with this then. This is probably a video that I'll be making during the week. I'm also getting an editor, so I'll probably have my editor do this video or cut the video. I'm gonna record it, but I'm gonna have him cut it. So what I'm gonna do is I'll show you how I actually make a video when like an educational video, and that way you can kind of get an insight in the workflow. But more especially, you're gonna like if you're a developer, you're gonna see how you actually use technologies that you start working with. So Strapi lifecycle methods have been introduced as a Strapi version stable. So Strapi 3.0.x. And basically these are ORM dependent. So first of all, this is like my brain dump of information they already know. ORM dependent, which means that Mongoose versus SQLite versus the bookshelf versus Mongoose will change how they behave, and at the same time they're they're very new features, so they may also be untested and not necessarily the most stable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the Strapi documentation, and I'll just search for life cycle hooks. And basically, this is like the starting point. The most important thing to do is you just go here and you look at it and you're like, okay, there's lifecycle hooks. And these lifecycle hooks will be edited through the /model / name of collection type.js file. And basically, we can start playing with them. So we have the find one, create, update, delete, count, search, count, search. I guess the challenge that I have with a topic such as this one is that you can, like, there's multiple ways in which you can do a video on this topic. One will be to cover all of them because there's all these lifecycle hooks, right? So you may as well just make an example for all of them. But the alternative would be to just go in the docs and show you how to use them. And that's the approach that I took, which I guess it's kind of lazy, or maybe it's definitely not the most popular approach, but it also makes sense because why would you use most of them? Well, why would you use the before find? I guess you can use it for logging operations, although you probably would use the Strapi logger anyway, so you don't need to log these kind of operations. For finding one, again, maybe you wanna time your queries, although every single Strapi response automatically tracks tracks the time it takes to build it. So there's no reason to actually implement this functionality. For the create and the delete, create, update, and delete, I can see a very clear use case. So I made a video that was, so let's look about these use cases. I made a video on delete image from deleted content type. That was kind of the name of the video. So basically, you would what happens when you delete a content type that has an image in it? Will the image get deleted? The answer was no. So many people were complaining about the fact that their media gallery, although it used to be called just file upload, but they were complaining that their file upload would have all of these images that were basically parentless. They had no collection type. And so we basically wrote a custom delete controller. So the old solution will be to write a custom delete controller. And the delete controller would basically delete the entry, and then search for entry.thumbnail, and then delete that as well. Because you can always do Strapi.services, square bracket, dot plugins, square bracket, upload, dot delete, and then you can do the entry.thumbnail.id. So if you do something like this, you're basically able to delete the image. So the next level to this will be to actually do it through a lifecycle hook. So let's look at that. We're going to look at this specific use case of using a lifecycle hook to clean up your collection types. Let me see, did I lose the image? Yeah, no, okay. Okay. So the first thing I'll do, I'll get the quick Strapi install running, which I think I already do. Okay, so I have my image demo Strapi running on localhost 1337. I'll go on localhost 1337/admin, and I'll just create a collection type. And if you're just joining, I'm doing a Q&A, so I'm happy to answer your question if you want to take advantage of that. Create a collection type. We're just going to call it article. We're just going to create a random collection type with a title, a content, and then an image. And you typically would just always use lowercase, by the way. So let me rewrite them so that they are lowercase. So at this point, I got my articles. So I'll create a couple. First article. Always has been for the meme connoisseurs. Let's put a picture here. I don't even know what pictures I have on this device. Okay. No. Okay. And let's create a second one. Second article. Always will be. And let's put the same image, or actually let's just put this in a second image so that we can play around with this. Okay, I guess I created it 2 times because I clicked a little too fast, which is, it's kind of a glitch in the admin panel, but it is what it is. It wouldn't normally happen with a live site. So we have our delete, and we can see our before delete and after delete. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code on my image demo repo. And I have my API folder with articles. Just for the sake of easier communication, I'll also initialize Git. So that way it's easier to see what I'm changing. Okay. And I'm going to go in the API folder. Basically, the first thing I'll do is I'll go in the delete controller so that we don't actually delete anything. And I'll just create a custom delete controller, which is just going to do nothing, honestly. So I'm just going to do delete controller, and that's it. So that way I'm set up so that I can spam the same operation multiple times without losing my collections or my content. Then I'm going to go in the models folder and click on article. this is where I'm going to be able to use my lifecycle methods. So I'm just going to look them up. I have the before delete and the after delete. So at this point, we can only play with the before delete. So we can just do async models / user.js lifecycles. So apparently we need to key that with lifecycles. I guess this file is going to be used for something else as well. That's okay. So I'm just going to type lifecycles, curly braces, async, before delete, params, and I'll do console.log, double quotes, article, dot before delete, and params, so we can see what we get. And before delete equals, no, async before delete, what am I missing? Yeah, I just did no arrow. Okay, now let's open up Postman, and I'm gonna close the requests, and I'll just make a, first of all, I need to open up my endpoints. So I'm gonna go in roles and permissions. Let me see if it's broken or something. Yeah, let's restart. Every time my Strapi crashes, you have to restart it. Apparently I made a typo on the delete controller. Yeah, okay. This is just a function with the same name as the, so you're basically defining a variable that also has a value of the function with the same name. So you have to type it this way. Localhost 157, it's running, and I can go roles and permissions and set up my roles. So I'll just go in public, and I'll allow myself to delete and also find. And then I'll go in Postman, get HTTP : / localhost : 147 / we said articles. So these are my 2 articles, and they both have an image. Then I can go and make a delete request here. And I'm going to delete the article with an ID of 1. So I'll put this on the left, and then I'll put the terminal on the right. Let me move this out. Hide floating meeting controls. Okay. I'll actually keep this here. And let's run it. We see the delete controller, and then we see delete articles 404. So even though, or at least as of now, we have these modular export lifecycles, and we have a before delete text, and apparently we got basically it didn't work. It literally doesn't even run. So the first thing I'll do is I'll try just putting this here like this to see if it will work, because I honestly haven't done it, so I just want to see. Now it looks like it wouldn't work either. So I'm guessing that these lifecycle methods are related with the database. So there is no, like it's not a system that is on top of the Strapi layer. It's probably on top of the database layer. So I'm guessing I'm gonna have to use a real delete controller. So I'll just remove the fake delete controller that I had, and we're just gonna sacrifice our first article. So let's make the request and see what happens. And it did work. So it clearly does work. And we get our article.before delete with params of ID 1. And we also get back the ID, the object here. So the question is, did this thumbnail frame 1 PNG get deleted or not? Let's start investigating that. I'm going to media library, and I can see that I have 2 images. So I can safely assume that while I did lose the article because it was deleted, I didn't lose the image because it wasn't deleted. So that behavior of deleting the image is still not there. So we're gonna have to write it custom. And as I've already said, we have a quote unquote old way of doing this, which is to just write a custom delete controller. But what we're gonna do now is, instead of writing the custom delete controller, we will actually write a custom, we would just use a lifecycle hooks, which just makes sense. This is like one of the most common use cases that 100% makes sense. Other use cases would be adding users to a subscription method, removing users, that kind of stuff, or doing webhooks for various operations. So I'm also seeing a comment here. Mehdi is talking about Next.js and Strapi. I was actually, I'll take a a breather on this for like 2 seconds. So if you're interested, I'll be back in 2 minutes on that. But basically what I did is I looked at Next.js versus Gatsby versus React. And if you do that on Google Trends, and yeah, don't worry about typing, Google will autocorrect. So, making me lazy by the day. But Next.js, so if you search for Next.js, and then you search for Gatsby.js, and for now it's in America, but we'll change that to worldwide. And then you search for Strapi.js, and then you search for React.js. I think Next.js actually makes the most sense. So if I'm not mistaken, Gatsby and Strapi are tightly coupled, basically. And I think React is making it very complicated to look at this graph, so I'll remove it. But basically, from a financial point of view, React is probably the best decision, although there's also more competition. So that's something to keep in mind. Then if we look at Next.js, you can clearly see that it's way more popular than Gatsby and Strapi, way more popular. So there's a lot of interest. But if you look at Udemy, there's actually not that many courses on Next.js. And actually the main course on Next.js is not even in the Next.js course is from Maximilian from Academine. And it's like a complete React course, which makes sense, but at the same time may mean that there's a deeper opportunity in the Next.js space. So yeah, I guess Next.js makes sense. I just I'm not sure if I'm gonna end up making another course on Strapi plus Next.js, because I may end up doing something completely different. Please don't hide this video once live stream finishes. Yeah, I typically don't hide long live streams, so don't worry about that. The video will be here. The only problem is that it may be on a different tab. I have no control over that. So perhaps it's best if you save the URL, and that way you can access it. So in conclusion, Mehdi, I will 100% cover Next.js. I'm just not sure if I'll do it over a course or how, because like the reason why this channel is called Entrepreneur is because I honestly just want to work with entrepreneurs, work with entrepreneurs. So in a way, I honestly am not as interested with teaching topics to a wider audience. So, because my goal has always been to work with people that will actually put that into practice versus, just looking at a course or whatever, getting a lot of views, and that kind of stuff. So in order to do that, there's like 2 approaches. I'll talk to you a little bit about marketing to your core audience. There's basically 2 approaches, and unfortunately the first one never works. This one never works, which is have a massive audience and then do targeted proposals to them. So this never works. So the example I can give you, I think it was in the Joe Rogan podcast, is he would have this influencer with something like 7 million followers, I think, on Instagram. And he tried selling t-shirts, and he basically sold 36 t-shirts. So like out of 7 million people, 7 to the power of 10, he was able to sell 36 t-shirts, which is whatever this number is. It's basically a 1 with 5 zeros conversion rate. It's basically nothing. So even though we tend to associate fame with success and with even with monetary success, my experience has been that you want to niche down early, which means that you want to target the people you want to work with. Early. So paradoxically, me making YouTube videos is kind of more like something that I do because a part of my brain just really enjoys it. Because if I wanted to work with entrepreneurs, I'd probably be better off going on LinkedIn and just sending friend requests to people on LinkedIn. So I'm not really sure of the future of the entire content production of me producing content. I know I will be doing it for a little longer, but I'm also pretty sure that once I find a way to relate to this audience of entrepreneurs, I'm not gonna pander to anybody else. So I'm not sure about actually building a course. At this point, let me finish up this migration thing, and then I'll get to other questions. You can put your questions in the chat. I'll come to them. I see your question, Faizan. I will answer it in a few minutes. Let's do 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'll get back to it. Let me just quickly finish this up because I want to close that point. And the point is that you no longer need to do this. You know, fear no longer. We have lifecycle methods, and we're going to use the after delete result. So we're going to go in here. We're going to call it after delete. We're going to use the result, and we're going to console.log it. And I think I'm going to need to emulate a couple more articles before I'm able to write a solution, but that's fine. That's part of the process. So at this point, we have our log on the left, post one on the right. I'm going to delete article number 2. I don't know what I did. Let me send the request. I deleted, and I get result ID 2. Okay, maybe I'm confused. Let me just quickly check a result and params. Okay, so maybe I made a mistake. So this is supposed to be result, and this is supposed to be params. So let me try getting both, because I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. Sending a request, and we get a result is null, and that's because we have the wrong article. So now we have the proper article, and you can see that the result is the entire object. So I can do image square bracket, because I use the more than one image, but whatever, image square bracket 0.id, and I can use that to delete my image. So at this point, I'm just gonna try it. Strapi, I can type try and catch, and I can do console.log exception. And I like to always write the fact that there's an exception and then the name of the variable. That's just how I do it. If you follow my content, you'll see. And if you follow my content and you do this, like this line that I'm highlighting of console.log, name of the variable, value of the variable, you're going to save yourself hundreds of hours of pain. So make sure to do that. Or I guess you're going to have to get pain, and then you realize how smart this is. But you know, whatever. So at this point, I'm going to just do Strapi dot services square bracket upload dot delete, and this will be result dot image square bracket 0 dot id. So I'm not sure about this part. The way to figure that out is to just go on GitHub Strapi/Strapi, and then look at the packages folder. And we can go on the upload, and then we're going to have our controllers, upload.js, and let's see if there's a delete. There is no delete, so that's a bad sign. So we have to figure that out. Search queries, destroy. This is called destroy, which is the old school name of services for Strapi. So it's going to be called destroy, and I'm assuming it receives the ID from params. It receives ID from params, but this is because I've opened the controller. I'm pretty sure the service will have the ID. So I'm going to go in services upload. Let me search for destroy. It looks like destroy is not here. Delete, neither. So let's keep searching. Update file info, upload, file and persist, upload, enhance. Remove. So it's called remove. Again, the old school names. They're being streamlined now, but it's going to be remove file. Let me see if file is file.provider.formats file.id. So basically it wants to receive the entire file because it's looking for file.id. So technically we could also use a hack where we pass an object and provide the ID. So this will be the way to hack it up. But we could also just pass the entire image, which will be result square bracket image dot nothing. So result square bracket image dot 0. So this looks to be the way to get that done. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to go in articles. I'm going to basically we're going to have 2 images. I'm going to upload the third image with a third content type, and I'm going to see if the deletion actually goes through. So I'm gonna add a new article. The third one always has been. If you don't know the meme, you have to check it out. A really good meme, really spicy meme. And let's put this carbon image. So this is the image related to file upload. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to make a request to delete Postman with an ID of 4. Hopefully we don't get any exception. Let's see what happens. Boom. We actually got an exception. It says cannot read property remove of undefined. I'm guessing that Strapi.service is okay. I made a mistake. It's going to be Strapi.plugins square bracket upload dot services dot remove. Okay, so I made that mistake. And I'll just create a last image, I guess. The fourth time is the charm. Let's use another image so we distinguish it. Finish, save, and let's make a request. Handy alternative. So I'm gonna go on 5. Boom. Deleted. And I'll look into why it's wrong, but this is kind of the idea. I'll probably just mistype something. I don't really want to spend the next hour looking into that. So I'm gonna answer Faizan Rupani's question. Does Strapi has how to DB migration? The answer is no. Strapi does not offer a automatic DB migration. So Strapi doesn't offer any kind of automated, no automated migration. If you want, you can go on Strapi roadmap and you can recommend that as a feature. Maybe it's already here. Data migration across environment. It's probably for scheduled for 2021. So you can either look into building it or yeah, you probably want to build it for yourself, or you want to do it how we always did, which is you just separate the environments because you just have to. When it comes to migrating from a previous application that didn't use Strapi to a new version of Strapi, my best advice would be to just just do a manual migration. So if you want to do a manual migration, I have never digged into the database, so I'm not going to answer the database related question because honestly, it's very situational. You're just going to have to experiment. But the quick answer would be you can write a Axios script that fetches all entries and then makes a post request to create them in Strapi. So just do that. Strapi is solid enough that it will handle thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. Or I know that some people even use it for millions of entries. So you can just do that and just do a manual migration that way. So that's how I would recommend. Mehdi says, I looked into the Gatsby section of your course and was thinking I would like to do this with Next.js in order to start working on solo projects. Okay. So Mehdi, I'm just going to give you a quick start on Next.js. And then I'm going to answer Sandeep questions. So Sandeep, in a couple of minutes, I'll be answering your question. In the meantime, I'm going to answer Mehdi's question on getting started with Next. So this is something that I'll probably end up making a video on. But look, this is an extremely straightforward process. So the first thing you'll do is npx create next app. Okay, so you're done. You're started with Next. Like, okay, welcome to Next.js. Next up, the only main differences that you're gonna see with Next.js have to do with like there's like 3 or 4 quirkinesses. So one thing is gonna be that you have a thing called get initial props. Get initial props allows you to fetch data on the server and pass it to your component. So this is the secret sauce. How do you do server-side rendering? You use get initial props. That's the secret. How long will it take you to master this idea? A long time. But how long will it take you to get started? Very little. So That's that. Then the other one is link. Link is from next/link. So link is not from Reactor Alter DOM. You can't use Reactor Alter DOM. You have to use next. So it's a little different. And I think there's a couple more things that I'm missing, but that's kind of about it. Those are the two things that you want to know off the start. You want the other one is you have pages, which is amazing. So you have a folder called pages/pages. Any file in here is a page. You can navigate to it just like in PHP. So it's amazing. It's lovely. And then you can also have square bracket variable name.js will be used for dynamic pages. So if you want to have a challenge from me, which I think you can take, it's like the 45-minute challenge, Mehdi. I challenge you to install Next and then build a blog where you have /blog for all articles. So a get request to /articles in Strapi, and then /square bracket id.js, which basically it's going to be your folder will be /pages, and then /pages will have /blog, and then you're going to have index.js, which is going to be basically blog, and then you're going to have square bracket id.js, and that will be for a single article. So if you do that, you're going to have understood most of Next.js, and you're ready to use it for most use cases. And also, if you hook this up with another big advice I can give you is GitHub plus Vercel app. The Vercel app that is made by the people that made the Next.js is incredible. So if you start using the Vercel app for automatic deploys and stuff, you're going to love it. So just get started with this. I don't think you need anything else from me, honestly. Like you can just read the docs and do the quick start. There's like a start learning. Just do this stuff here and you're good to go. But those are the main differences. So I don't know if you want to take a screenshot of this or you want to save the timestamp. These are all the differences. And if I were to make a video, I would probably make a video of create React app versus Next.js. And then I would probably make a video of getting started with Next.js. And this is literally what I will teach. So now that you know what it is, you can just fill in the blanks by just Googling for each of the topics and you should be good to go. So Faizan is saying it would be an handy alternative of Firestore. That's literally the point for me, at least. Strapi is basically a great alternative to Firebase. So if you want to build something rapidly, it's an ideal tool for that. Then we have Sandeep asking, oh, anyways, to get more user from social logins. Not sure how I can get user profile picture and profile details. Okay, so that's where you're gonna have to write. Okay, so Sandeep says user picture and profile details. You're gonna have to customize the default provider to ask more scopes. So if you search for Google off scopes, and you can see that I can even mistype it. Basically, you can choose off scopes. So I think we covered this in the video as well. Let me see. So I'm just gonna go on my channel. So you have the Google authentication provider. So Sandeep, this is me answering your question. Okay, so we create in the video at around 4 minutes, we create the OAuth request. And then we use the OAuth consent screen, and then we look for scopes. If you scroll down here on this page, you can see that here down we have scopes. You see email, profile, open ID. So if profile already contains the image, and I'm not sure, then that means that we have to actually override the default Strapi OAuth handler for Google. So the way to look that up will be to go in the Strapi folder under packages, and there under roles and permissions. yeah, users information now it's called. And then we can look at the controllers off. Let me see, we have the callback controller, reset password, connect. So this is the connect. And you can see grant config square bracket provider dot callback, then it's gonna call the callback, and then it's gonna call it. So do you see this part right here, 241 to 262 for file, Strapi dash plugin dash user dash permission controllers off? It's basically saying that you have what are called grant config square bracket provider, which comes from strapi.store and basically retrieving the key grant. Basically, you have this default behavior for each provider that makes it so that it only returns the user email. If you customize that behavior, you're going to be able to actually load more. So this is one part of the answer. Basically, go on this file and check it out. The second part of the answer is to go on Strapi docs, and you're going to have to look at custom provider for authentication. So plugins, roles and permissions, authentication providers, blah, 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 blah. Adding a new provider. So basically you're going to have to set up a new provider. Let me see. Retrieve your user information. Callback, username. And you're basically going to have to read this guide here, which as you can see, it's going to take a little bit of time, but basically you're going to have to override the default provider that is already given to you. And you may have to do that by building these 4 separate files and then set up the entirety of the thing, basically. So it's a little more convoluted than I would like, but that's basically how you're going to be able to override that. So you create your default provider, which is still using the same Google behavior, but it's getting a little extra data, and then you're going to have to override a callback. And as you can see, it's going to be a little annoying, but it can be done. So that's that. Sandeep, I'm wondering to get more data. Okay, Faizan is like, what about deployment migration? I honestly don't know how to answer the question. Deployment migration. You deploy through, typically you have a GitHub repo, so you have a source control repo, and then you deploy. So that's how it's done. It's a very straightforward process. Does Vercel app included in course? No, Vercel app is not covering the course. Also, we do have a project of Socket. I'm not gonna have a Socket. I'm not gonna have a Socket course, but it's literally the same thing as like just go on. It's a very basic thing. Actually, let's think. I think there's like something really annoying about setting up a socket, which is the reason why I didn't end up covering it. But at this point, like, I don't think I'll add more major projects to the course. I think it's already long enough. It's like 26 hours. So I'll just answer more questions from students. And obviously, if there's a major update, when we get the create read update or the multiple profiles, I'll cover that. But basically, how do you set up this? I'm pretty sure there's already a guide on the web as well. Blah, 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 blah. io.on, http, socket.io. Because basically the way socket works is it's returning. So the way this socket is done this way, it will automatically attach itself to the file that you're sending, so that you basically have to return a file, and then socket will also return its SDK automatically. But I'm pretty sure this can be done by decoupling the client and the backend. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a guide on this. Socket.io with Strapi. I remember seeing this. It's actually kind of it's like an old guide. So you see, it's actually already been covered. Now this is like the 20-second demonstration, but you can search for it. You'll find it. And let's quickly look at blah blah blah. Config bootstraps. Yeah, it's using it. It's bootstrapping on connection, socket.emit, strapi.io. So it's adding IO to the Strapi global object. So this makes sense. And then he's adding this file to the public .html file, where that way you have socket.io here. And then it's calling us IO. The only thing that is confusing me is how does he get the file? What if you were to decouple the backend from the HTML file? Because this one is forcing you to use the public folder, which you may not want to do. So yeah, this is a great quick start example and it works really well. So you probably want to get started with this, and then you're going to have to figure out how to decouple the backend from the front end. I'm wondering, how do I get more data? Okay, that one we did. I know what I meant is how to see you combine it with Strapi. Yeah, Mehdi, the problem is like you're asking me a very generic question on how to use Next.js in freelancing, and the answer is you're going to do whatever your client wants. So probably you want to talk to me about either getting more clients or having a sales process to get more clients, or having a sales process to convince people to basically trust you or to use the technology that you want. But the short answer is that like you basically have to respond to the market. So you're not going to do something because I tell you to. You're going to do something because people reward you for it with money. So your clients are happy that you use Next.js because they need that. And the most typical case of using Next.js is that you have a company that is very serious about what they want to do, and they have already an SEO strategy in place. So I'm just going to go on a tangent for a few minutes. If you want to ask me any more questions, I'll make sure to answer them. The last thing you asked, Faizan, I'll get to that in a second. But the tangent I'll go into is create React app versus Next.js. And I'm not sure why it's so small. Shouldn't be. Anyway, create React app versus Next.js. So what is the real problem of using create React app? It's honestly just server-side rendering. Like everything else for create React app is awesome. Like that's the short end. You just use it and you're good. What's the problem is that you don't have server-side rendering, right? That's really the problem. That's kind of the one problem. There are more problems than that, but there are solutions to those. But the main problem is you don't have server-side rendering. So how do you go about solving that? Well, if you built a simple app, okay, let's call it with vertical data, then you can just use Next.js seamlessly. Where vertical means that each page is responsible for its own data, and it doesn't need a centralized data store. So if you do that, you're going to have zero, like literally zero friction in transitioning from Create React App to Next.js. However, if you start, if you build the example that I always get myself into is using Create React App plus Redux. So if you do CRA plus Redux, and why wouldn't you, honestly? But I mean, we can talk about using context or whatever, but it's kind of the same thing. If you do CRA plus Redux or you do CRA plus plus context, what's going to happen is that your data, the way you handle data, is not going to be very easy to transition to Next, because Next wants you to call get initial props. I'm pretty sure if you do it with context, it's going to be a little easier. But you built your app to basically fetch tons of data initially and then never fetch it again. So it doesn't really, it's not that simple of a transition, because now you have to chunk up all of the way you handle your data and your loading so that you can load a little less data and be a little more efficient with it. So from my experience, this is where you just are going to have to pay the price for it. So in my experience, whenever I'm in this position, I don't want to go back to Next, because I'm already too committed So I'll probably like what I did, and I'm not sure if I'll ever release a video on that, but what I did like this week is I found a way to have server-side rendering without ES6 and without like any specific tool, just server-side rendering done on the server by returning an HTML and then linking to the real build for React. And the reason why I did that was because the only reason why I did why I did SSR was just for SEO. So if you do it for SEO, then just change the metadata. There's no point in re-rendering the entire thing because you're not doing it for that purpose. So that's what I used it for. So you can also hack a thing together and it will save you from having to use Next. But the reality of it is that most teams that are SEO focused will start with Next. They literally will start with Next.js because also there's like very little downside to doing it. I mean, it's opinionated, so it's, you know, some people won't like it, but as long as your opinions co-align with Next.js, you will use it and you're going to be very satisfied with it. So most teams will start with Next.js and they're going to have no problems. So you want to find those companies that value Next.js. And most of the times, a couple of traits. So for example, why would I value Next.js as somebody that has done the mistake multiple times? Because I've been burned by not using it. That would be a great reason why you would want to use Next.js. Another one is you value SEO. And the third one is you have the resources. Some companies don't have the resources. Some companies wouldn't, like for some companies, you must have a website under a single domain because they can afford it. For other companies, you're gonna have a subdomain for your app. You're gonna have app.subdomain because it's 10 times cheaper to do that. So why not? So it really depends on the resources. So you wanna focus on finding those type of people. So I'm seeing Faizan with a bunch of questions. Also, will you add a project of socket? As I said, I will not cover that. How do you use it as a microservice? Every service decoupled, make a tutorial with Vercel. I mean, man, like, how do you use Vercel? Just go on vercel.com. Like, I can make a tutorial, but the reality of it is that it's such a simple task. Like literally, you just press a button. How do you sign up with Vercel? You press a button and then it automatically deploys it to you. So maybe I can do like a GitOps video where I'm like, okay, I'll show you my workflow. I'll show you a very reasonable workflow that anybody can implement that is going to save them a lot of heartache. That makes sense. That's something I could do. But show you how to use Vercel is kind of, it's like, can you press a button? Because it's that simple. Like you press here, you sign up with GitHub. I'm not going to sign up in my case. But then you just select a repo, you set up the command to build it and to deploy, and that's it. And every time you make a commit, it will automatically deploy for you. So it's a very convenient tool, and I can't recommend it enough. It's just there's not enough meat to actually make a video. Like it would be like a 30 seconds video. It would be like, Vercel is awesome, use it. It would be like an advertisement. I'm not seeing any more questions. I guess I'll just go make myself more coffee. If you have any questions, feel free to send them in the chat and I'll be answering them. I think at this point I have this Create React App versus Next, which I probably want to make a video on. I will make a video on this for the course, which is the video on lifecycle methods. And I'll probably give this example. So that's something I want to do. I really don't want to go back to this authentication thing. One day I will build maybe even a plugin, and it would probably be paid. So you're going to hate me for it, but I'll probably just make a paid plugin that is going to be an integration with either Auth0 or Magic.link, where it's just going to build the policies, like the entire security model done properly, the way I would have done it. It's just that it's probably going to be a gargantuous task. So I don't see myself doing this recently, especially considering that I have pain in my left arm. So if anything goes to show you, I'm like the demonstration that like you can work hard and you can get a fairly decent status in life by doing it, but there is a price to pay. So I'm just gonna put like a huge message here, getting coffee. use Q&A. Now, drop your question in the chat and I'll answer it in 5 minutes. So maybe we can put like a meme song or something. Although I'm not sure how to put audio from external sources. Is this the best we can do? All right, so I'm gonna, I know you don't want me to make a paid plugin because, but like, what can I do? Like, I'm also motivated by money. So I can not make it at all, or I can make it paid. So I don't know, but maybe I won't make it. Maybe I'll just surrender to the criticism. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Feel free to drop the questions. In 5 minutes or so, I'll be answering all of them. I'll just mute to the Yeah. All right. Microphone. Okay, so I'm back, and of course, I'll wait a couple of minutes before going back to answer more questions. Full stack. So I'm gonna talk to Mehdi. I also talk to Faizan if Faizan is here about. Honestly, we're just gonna talk a little bit about making money online, which is a very important question. It's like the most important question. It's just that it's very hard to making money online as a gig worker on freelancing sites. Okay, so this is the topic that I'm gonna cover for the next few minutes, and I'll just wait a couple of minutes to ensure that the people that I am very happy to assist with um, will be here. So I guess I'll start by just addressing why would somebody like me even mention this stuff, because like probably the most important discussion that you need to have, like it's an honest discussion on why would I even start teaching this stuff? And the answer is that the majority of people will just ignore the advice. So, they say it's lonely at the top. You know why? It's because you can't relate to others. Like it's lonely at the top because nobody else took your path, so you can't really share it with anybody else. So when you find somebody that actually wants to be part of that path, it actually is something that makes you feel a little less lonely. It actually feels like you have a little more agency in the world. So I guess it gives life meaning in a way. So that's definitely part of that. And the other side is that, like, let's say that you, Mehdi, for example, I'm just going to pick you out of the pack. Let's say with my help, you make 10,000 more dollars. How likely are you to start paying me as a coach or as a consultant or taking my products or working with me one-on-one? How likely are you to share some of that money if I help you make more money? The answer is you're very likely, because you'll be like, well, the more you might as well just work with him. So that's kind of the other side. It's just that if you look at the numbers, helping people makes more money. Like literally, like there's no, like it's very simple. If I help 100 people, one person out of those 100 will be way more wealthy thanks to me, and they're just gonna make me more wealthy. I just would like to make $1. So we're actually gonna take this extremely seriously, Maddie. And today is the day that you're gonna make $10. We're not gonna go for $1. We're gonna go for $10. We're gonna go for $10 to $15. So if your goal is to make 10, make this per hour, honestly, or let's say per hour. Yeah, come on. That's the goal. That's the number. That's where you want to be at. That's the number you want to start at. That's the number I started at. I don't remember how long it was, but it was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And so that was the number that I would ask for. That number. That's the number I would ask for. And I think it's a fair number. And you just want to get started with that. And I mean, the biggest thing is you want to realize that if you think that even $10 or whatever, if you think that's a lot of money, then you definitely want to shift that mindset, and you want to realize that it's not for the majority of people. So even if it will be for you, for your family, for the people that surround you, it doesn't have to be that for you. Like for you, this has to be a reasonable amount of money. It's like the minimum you're willing to work for. That has to be like the first thing. It's like you are entitled to this. And the answer of why is because the market says so. It doesn't matter if everybody else surrounding you doesn't make this kind of money. It's irrelevant. It's their problem. It's not yours. Your problem is you're entitled to this. Why? Because the market says so. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Just like, why is Bitcoin worth 9.2K? Why is Bitcoin worth that money? Why do you think is that? I'm just gonna have you answer. This is like the one-on-one coaching. So I'm just gonna want your answer. Why is Bitcoin worth that kind of money? First thing that comes off your mind. Why is Bitcoin worth $9.2 thousand? Yeah, we're here. So why is it? Because people use it. No, because people pay for it. It's not because people use it. It's not because it's its value. It's because that's what people pay for it. Because that's what people pay for it. It's not its value. It's not its value. It's what people pay for it, which is, to be correct, it's its perceived value by the collective people, by the collective of people that are trading it. So you think this is what Bitcoin is worth, but the reality is this is what Bitcoin is worth to the people that are trading it. Okay, and then you have what is called the, what is it called? So like you have the early adopters, and then you have the laggards, the people that follow it, and then everybody just agrees, and then now this is the reality. But that's not true. That's just something that we, as a collective, as an amount of people, we decided that that's what it's worth. But it's not worth that. It's just what we're willing to trade it for. So it's what we perceive it as being valued for. So in the same way, you want to start by realizing that a good front end React plus Next.js with Strapi skills developer will charge at least 10 to 15 bucks an hour. Like that's the starting point. Like that, you can't, like you just can't, you have to start with this. Like that's the point. Like why? And you ask why? Well, there's a million reasons why. The first one is the market will pay for. The market will pay for. And this is where you just have to take a gamble on it. You just have to trust me for a few minutes. For a few minutes, you will trust me, and then it will become true. It will become true eventually. So I don't see why it wouldn't. But then the other side of it is that you put in at least minimum, let's say 300 hours in this. So you put at least 300 hours. Maybe you already put thousands of hours, but you at least put that amount of time. So in a way, what you're doing is worth it because you have that knowledge and you're willing to use it. So then we add a couple more extra features just to make it so that everybody that you work with is happy. Because your main goal, the person that you work with is happy with the work. So the other small consideration that you're going to add is that at the end of the day, you will send a simple message that recaps what happened, what you did. Like literally, like I've worked on page X and built function Y, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And that's it. So you're going to be very transparent with your reasoning, and you're going to actually put their needs in front of yours. So you're not doing it because you need the money. You're doing it so that you can help these people. Okay. So you will focus on helping these people, okay, your clients. So basically you will ask yourself, is this in the interest of my client or not? And always do what is in the interest of your client. Because if you do something that people like, if I work for you and I do something that you want, you're going to be happy. If I do something that you don't give a shit about, you're going to be mad at me. You're not going to be happy. So that's the point. The reason why I say that is because if you feel like you're charging too much, you have to realize that the majority of people don't care enough to even do this. The majority of people will never care enough. What I'm going to do, what I would love to do is to show you, I don't know if I can, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my Upwork profile on another video monitor. I'm going to read you the applications of other candidates. And we're going to laugh at how much nobody gives a fuck about other people. So even if you give like 1% of a fuck of what people, of your client, they will love you for that because nobody cares. Nobody even reads the descriptions. So that's where we start to actually land you a job. So today we're going to land you a job, Mehdi. We're going to land a job for Mehdi today. So how do you land the job? Well, first of all, do you have an account on Upwork or freelancer.com or Fiverr, although I'm not experienced in Fiverr. So do you have the account? If you don't have the account, you must have an account, okay? So I'm gonna wait a second to see if you have the account or not. First of all, you must have an account. If you don't have an account, you can't do shit, okay? So today we're landing your job, 100%, easiest task ever. But you need to have an account. Do you have an account? So you're fucked. You don't have an account. So that's like the biggest hurdle. Most people will never even create an account. So you have to create an account now. But the problem is, will you be able to get an account? Because do you have a portfolio? This is where 99% of people can't even have an account as of now. No, I don't even know what task to go for. Got it. Okay. So we're going to start even earlier than this. This is literally the starting. Okay. So you are here. No account. Okay. So basically you're fucked. Honestly, like you are. But we can change that today. But we have to do it today. If you don't do it today, the chances of you doing it decline because you have to put that pressure to actually do it. Okay. So that's why I'm going to be a little annoying on you, but I just actually want you to succeed. I want you to make $10 today, which I think is such a low goal that I don't see how you can't do it. So honestly, like really. So the first thing you need is a portfolio. So my question to you is, do you have a portfolio, Mehdi? You need to have a portfolio. What is a portfolio? I want to know what task to go for. If you don't have an account, you can't go for any task. So it doesn't matter because you think that you have to have like an offer, but the reality is that once you have an account, you're going to start seeing job 1, job 2, job 3, and your brain will figure out which job you have to do. It doesn't matter. Like you're just going to apply. Like you do the job that you can apply. I don't, but I can build one. Yes. So you need to have a portfolio. The reason why you need to have a portfolio is because a portfolio is proof that you can do the work. This is the most, like, you have the skills. That's amazing. You have the skills. That's amazing. But the first thing is that, like, because why do I spend so much time here talking about being trustworthy, being good, whatever, is because that part, I kind of know you already did. Like you gotta be annoyed by me telling you this stuff because you already have it. But the problem is nobody will see it unless you have a portfolio. No portfolio equals no trust. You need to have a portfolio, 100%. There's no alternative. You need to have a portfolio. And the reason why you need to have it is because it's a proof that you can do the work. And the better the portfolio looks, the more likely you are to land a job. And I'll give you an example that I think I already gave in the previous live session. I had a student who was an amazing developer, like a really good developer, and a really good person. So if you mix good developer with good person, you have an amazing employee, like a perfect employee. The problem was his portfolio sucked. They had a very bad portfolio. Bad portfolio means that people don't trust you. If I know what to build, awesome. So that's the next question. Exactly. What do I build in my portfolio? And I'll tell you exactly what you have to build. I'll tell you, man, but you have to do it. The point is you have to build a portfolio. What are you going to build in a portfolio? So you're going to be a full stack JavaScript developer. So first of all, this is your new role. This is the name of your role, full stack JavaScript developer, full stack JavaScript developer. More specifically, you're going to be React plus Next.js, Strapi, JavaScript developer. Okay, which means that you are specialized in the front end, but you also can help in the back end if it's necessary. You can build no problem. Amazing. So first thing is, if you're going to do full stack, you need to have a CRUD project. So it's the classic to-do list with database and Express server. Okay. So if you want to build it with Express, that's probably the best. But if you want to build it with Strapi, it's fine as well. The point is it needs to look okay. It needs to look good. That's the point. So this is going to be your first task, is build a create, read, update, delete app, which is basically the to-do list. Build a to-do list app. I like to, instead of build a to-do list, I like to build a gratitude journal, which is like a way to basically do the same thing, but talk about what you're grateful for. And yes, easy. You need to have it. The challenge is it needs to look good. Okay. So how do you make it look good? The way you make it look good is you go on Dribble. You can make it pretty. If you're a developer, don't do that. Don't do that. Like that's not, we're going to cover that later. But if you're a developer, you never make it pretty. Or use semantic. Yeah, use semantic UI. That's a great option. Alternative, just go here, look at this app, looks amazing. You just send a message to this person, you send a message to the author, and you ask them to use their design. Okay? That's as simple as it gets. They need a job, you need a job. They're happy to exchange promotion. It's just a promotional thing. If you send 10 messages, you'll find a few designs and you're good to go. But it needs to look good. So that's the first app. Second app, and I'll cover the question from Sami in a second, but the second app needs to be something that looks real, something more complicated. So the second app will be blog or an e-commerce. Thankfully, we cover both in the complete Strapi course. So you just have to do the fucking projects and then make them look unique. Blog or e-commerce, you pick one. Honestly, the e-commerce is better, but if you can't do the difference is the blog should take you 2 hours. The e-commerce will take you 10, at least, right? But you can do which one you want, either a blog or an e-commerce, okay? And then the third app, now that you have built a CRUD application and then you built a blog or an e-commerce, so you built your basics, then you can do whatever you want for the third one. It could be a basic widget, it could be like a weather widget, like an API, basic API. So weather widget is good. The alternative would be stock trading. That's very common. You could be like the Bitcoin prices. Basically something cute that has to do with APIs. Okay, and it could even be a quote app. A quote app is okay. Just needs to have some polish. So if you build this stuff and it looks bad, you are a newbie. Nobody's gonna ever give you a job if it looks bad. But if you do what I just said and you go and you find good designs, everybody's gonna give you a job. To the point where, and I'm not proposing you do that, but to the point where if you steal pictures, if you were to steal images from Dribble, I know hundreds of developers or hundreds of freelancers that get jobs because they do that. I don't recommend that. I think it's dumb. You're just gonna basically have you're just gonna get jobs that you can't actually complete. So it's gonna be hell on earth later. But the point is that it needs to look good. If it looks good, if it looks professional, you're good to go. Does that make sense, Mehdi? So I need you to tell me where it makes sense. And I want you to come up with the 3 projects you're going to build. So now the action plan. Now it's up to you. It's literally action plan. Which projects? and then you're gonna put a deadline on it. By when? By when are you gonna be done with the projects? Unless you already did them, which is the ideal. Because in the meantime, I'll fill in, but I can make it good myself. Just takes time. Yes, makes sense. No, like that's something I'll cover later. But like, you don't want to design. You're not a designer. You are not a designer. Don't design. I know, like, I know you personally, you have an experience in making designs. You also made videos, so you have a lot of skills. But the problem is, if you start feature creeping, if you start adding too many stuff, too many things, too many tasks, too much work, you're gonna fail. You're making it too hard. Like the rule is very simple. Look, you never design. You never design anything. Never. Just don't do it. Why? It doesn't matter that you could. Yes, you could, but the reality of it is that you are an expert in one field. You can't be an expert in two, because it confuses people. It devalues your work, and it makes you go insane. Okay, it will drive you insane because you're doing the design and the coding and the bug and the communication and the selling and the properties and all this stuff. You're just going to go insane. You're never going to be able to do it properly. You want to focus on one task at a time. You want to focus on being an expert in your domain. And then when you go and you get a job on developing, you will demand a designer. They must have designs. You will not provide designs, because if you provide designs, now you're mixing two jobs and your salary is going to be in fluctuation. You're going to be feature creeped. You're just going to have an awful time. Don't do that. Like, from my experience, just do one. Okay. So I want you, Mehdi, literally just for you. I'm going to type it in the chat. Mehdi, tell me the free projects you will build, and tell me when you will have built them. I want you to tell me a deadline. It's very important. You need to have the goal, which is free projects, and then you need to have a deadline. When? It's very important that you choose a deadline that is realistic. You want to be honest. You don't want to tell me that you're going to do it by the end of today, because you're not. You want to tell me a realistic deadline, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, one project per week. It looks amazing. You need to have a design from a real designer. You can get it for free by looking at other websites. You can get in touch with people to get it for free, or you can buy it. But it needs to look this good. Because if it looks this good, now you are a top tier developer. Right, we got, in the meantime, I'm going to answer more questions, so feel free to drop yours. I get Sameh, he says, I use Upwork since 5 years, always RP for runner. I use it for web development work and use Fiverr for only marketing related jobs. Yeah, that's cool, Sameh. Is it possible to have both Express and Strapi? My developer is using both. Yeah, well, Sameh, so like you can use both Express and Strapi. But the point is that Strapi will be one server, and then Express will be another one. So if you have your app, React app, for example, you're going to have Strapi talking to the React app, and then you're going to have Express talking to the React app. And you can even have Strapi and Express talking to each other, but this is going to be your architecture. So this is your client, and these are your microservices. You're going to have a microservice with Express and a microservice with Strapi. So that actually answered the microservices question as well. You can put Strapi wherever you want and orchestrate it. You can use Kubernetes. There's a new tutorial on Kubernetes with Strapi that I think was launched last week. Yeah, from Rajat Bhajatia. And it's an amazing tutorial. I would highly recommend it. So you can use that in a microservice oriented fashion. How do I custom validation in Strapi? So I'm going to answer Faizan's question on custom validation. Custom validation with Strapi means build a custom controller, run validation, and then if successful, call the service. So if you have my course, it's in the custom controller section on the quick start project. That's where we do that. We do exactly that. But basically just build a custom controller and then run your validation in the custom controller. Hey, William, I'm new to development. Strapping in demand tool, 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, Mehdi, so I want you to commit to getting it done in 3 weeks. I want you to tell me which 3 projects you're gonna have and what's the name of the project. So the first one will be the CRUD app. What's the name of the project? The second project will be the blog or the e-commerce. What's the name of that? The third one has to do with APIs. What's the name of that? I hire people. There you go. Like Mehdi, that's basically like the way to do. I hire people who pay fully attention to my job post, answer my question with quality, and prove to me that they took the time to understand my requirement and prove to me that they can do the job. That's exactly what I'm saying as well. And that's exactly the people that you'll find. Like, you will think that there's like a trick or a technique, but the reality is we're all busy. We all have our own stuff, and we just want to be heard. Like, and I'll literally just pull up my Upwork account in a second, but basically Upwork story. So I'm looking for an editor. Okay, look for video editor. I'll just tell you the story, and maybe I'll read some candidatures later. But basically, I look for a video editor. And I write in my description, I say, in my desk, I say, do not send me copy paste of bio. That's literally what I wrote. Don't send me a copy paste of your biography. And some people replied with, as you requested, here's the copy paste of my bio. Okay, and then they pasted it. So that should give you an intuition for the competition that you have. So yeah, it's very hard to make $10 an hour when you do that. When you do that, it's impossible because you're not a human being. The way I like to say is that you're not a human being, and it's awful, but it's just the reality from my experience. You're not a human being until we're on a phone call. Once you are on a phone call with somebody, they're a real human being. You have a connection with them. But if you're not on a phone call and you're just seeing their message, like if I remove my camera and I don't talk and I just use this text, I'm not a human being. I'm a text. You know what I mean? So it's really hard to connect. So you want to actually engage with these people. You want to actually prove them that you understand what they're saying, what they want. And what do people want? Like maybe Sameh can also help me make my case. But at the end of the day, they want to be understood. Entrepreneur is hard work, okay? And it's stressful and waste of time. You don't want to, like, what do you want to avoid? It's waste time and waste money. What do you want to do is more work done by somebody else. Okay, so if you prove, like it's as simple as if you prove that you can do it and that it will be less stress for me, I'll give you the money. I'll give you the money because money for an entrepreneur is time. So if you give me quality time and less stress, I'll give you the money. It just makes sense. Why not do Q&A on Zoom? At this point, I don't know my community enough to invite them on the Zoom call. So I just don't do that, but I'll eventually do it. If you stick long enough, I'll invite you to the Zoom. It's just that if I invite anybody to the Zoom, it just would be risky for because basically if you put some weird stuff on the stream, I basically get banned forever. So I need to trust you before I can put you on the live stream. So I believe that $10 an hour, $15 an hour is an extremely achievable goal. But at this point, you can see why it's not that obvious. Like you can see that of all the steps that we have, you're stuck here. Like you're at step 0. no account. So you must make it a priority to have a portfolio. And should I make 2 projects and put them? Yeah. Just do the minimum amount of work to get a portfolio done, and just get a portfolio done. The faster, the better. And I think they should be free. Ideally, you always have at least 3 projects. 3 projects is always a starting point from my experience, and they need to look really good. If they don't look good, you're going to need to have 20 or 30 projects. But if they look good, 3 projects are enough. And that's really it. Like it's super hard to get started, and then it gets easier. Obviously, you're going to have to adapt. You have to make you just have to be a little more open to other people's feedback, honestly. So you just gotta open yourself up to the opportunity, and the way you do that is you go on a platform where you can. Like you see what Sam is saying, exactly. It's not easy to find a reliable developer who cares out long-term relationship with building well-documented code that enables other developers to build on top of it without struggling. It's literally, man, if you care about the company and you make it a priority to save time for the entrepreneur, they're just gonna want to work with you, because you're basically like it's a no-brainer. You still don't know what you're preparing for. Where you're building full stack websites now. So whatever the market demands, you're a full stack developer. You know Strapi, you know React, you know Next.js. So anytime there's a bug, anytime they need a feature, anytime they want to build a quick project, a prototype, a website, a widget, an extension, a progressive web application, although that gets a little harder. When you want to build tests, that kind of stuff, this is what you do. But I can't tell you what you're going to do now, because you're going to have a feed. There's going to be a bunch of people that want help, and you just got to be able to engage with them. And once you see what they need, and that's where I'm going to go deeper on that. And I also want Sami to share his own experience. But look, there's going to be a job post, right? So let's do it this way. So there's going to be job post. 0999. Okay, there's going to be a job post, and the job post is going to have requirements. Okay, so let's say the job post is, I'm just going to give a dumb example. Okay, very dumb example. And then I'll give you a real example. The first example is, I need to paint my house with white paint. It needs to be done by the end of August. Okay. So there's like, okay, I'm giving you this dumb example because I want you to think of the approach before you look at the specifics. And then I'll give you a real example so that you can apply it and you can copy the text and you can use it however you want. Although the words don't matter, it's the context. So this person needs to paint their house with white paint and needs to be done by the end of August. Those are the only 3 things we know. So we have a little bit of surface. Like, imagine if this person, the only thing they said was paint my house. This will be way harder to talk to this person, because paint my house, what does it even mean? You would need to ask, where is your house? Where, which color, when, how much, etc., etc. You would have to ask way more questions. But you basically have 2 approaches here. And I'll show you what every single person in the world would say. I am the best painter. The best painter. I will paint house. I will do it good. Please hire me. This is what 99% of people will do. Okay, this is the worst. This is literally scrapped just by default. Nobody wants to work with you. Nobody will ever work with you. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants this. Okay, why? Because you are selling yourself. You are not making it about them. i.e., you don't care. Does that make sense? So if you don't care about what they're doing and why they're doing it, nobody will relate to you, because again, you are doing a service, so you have to care. like the minimum amount of work is that you care about what you're doing. That's like the minimum. If you don't care and you're like, okay, I'm the best painter, choose me, it's the painting, choose me, you're never going to work with that person. So this is why you get strapped. Then what is the alternative? The alternative would be, well, you can say, hey, I'm Mehdi, I'm Alex. And then you can start and you do what is called the show that you are an expert. Okay, this is called qualification. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna be like, you're gonna show them that you actually know what you're talking about. So you can say something like, whenever I paint a house, I will always bring duct tape. I don't even know how to say duct tape, but whatever. I will bring duct tape with me, so I can do the masking technique. And I'll ignore my grammar, be nice with me, but I'll do the masking technique. This way I can paint faster, and the quality of the painting will be better. Okay. And then you can do something like you ask a leading question. So leading question would be, which technique do you need? Or this is my price. Is that something you're comfortable with? Or whatever, comfortable with. Basically, you ask them a question to engage them. You engage them, and typically you ask screening questions. So the point that I'm trying to make, beside the techniques and stuff, is that if you actually wanna have an engagement with somebody, you're gonna offer value first, which is literally tell them how to do it for free. So now they know, now they can run away and just do it for themselves because you told them the secret, and then you ask for reciprocity after. That's the point. You offer value first and you ask for reciprocity after. Okay, so I'm going to read Samuel's comments. It can also be frustrating and fail attempt by entrepreneur and developer if the requirements are not at least 90% clear. So that's where, instead of, you don't expect it to end here. You don't ask for the close here. You ask for something small, like a single question about the job, so that you can understand the job better and you can keep going. So thank you, Flavian, but I actually am not a Strapi developer, so I can't take appreciation for that. I'm a teacher. I'm teaching Strapi, but I'm not part of the team. So you can go on Slack. No, it's going to be strapi.slack.com. You can go on strapi.slack.com if you want to send your thanks to the team, to the actual team. So the second comment from Sameh is, it's the responsibility of the hiring person to put together a very clear requirements and perhaps a prototype to visualize his idea and avoid frustration to the developer. Yes, it's true, but in reality, it never pans out that way. In reality, you get, and that's why I'm gonna give the real example now. Hopefully this helps you, by the way. Like you can overcomplicate this a lot, but the reality is, did you give a fuck about the person? Like, did I give a fuck about this person? I did give a fuck enough that I read what they said and I offered them an advice, okay? Free advice. And then I asked them for reciprocity. Some people will never even read my message. Some people will just take the advice and run away. The majority of people will appreciate that I actually did this. The majority of people will put a premium on the fact that I cared. The fact that I care is the reason why I'm respected by these people. The people that don't respect you because you care, you don't want to work with. These people are sociopaths. You just ignore them. There's a handful of them in the world. You just learn to just block them and you just go to where the people that respect you. Because there's people that will respect you if you do this. You can find those people. There's plenty of them. The majority of the world is made of these people. You just have to do this first, though. Because again, are you gonna say, I am Mehdi, I am best coder, please give me job? Or are you gonna ask, okay, whenever I code, I like to have a design. I put it on Figma. I take the styles and then I put the styles first, and then I start by using the app component and then I build on top of that. And that way I can give you incremental builds, which we can set up on a Roku so that every day I can show you what I did. So that way the communication goes better. Obviously the second option is better. So try and be on that side. Now we're going to give the real example. So the real example would be awful client is something like, I mean, there's many, but like the most awful client will be, I need a website. This is like the client you can't have. I need a website. So you're done. You can't work with somebody like this. With my approach, you can't, because they don't know what they want. They don't know what they want. They most likely will go on a phone call with you and spend an hour trying to get free advice from you. So don't engage with this. Okay, just don't. These are not your clients. This is not the clients you're looking for. These are not the clients you're looking for. Now I'll show you the client that you're actually looking for is somebody that is like, okay, need to migrate from Strapi beta 0.20 to current version. I am X of Y. We have an app with 12 collection types that requires a migration from Strapi beta 0.20 to current version. Okay, so this is a great client. Why is this a great client? Even if there's going to be like very few of these, because for the specific of Strapi, you're going to have a lot more clients on React, but let's do the Strapi example first. So this is a great client. Why is it great? Because they know what they want, which just means that it's quantifiable, and they give you something to play off of. So they also give you something that you can use to actually have a conversation. What are you going to tell these people? Hey, I'm Alex. Whenever, in order to migrate, and you're just going to give value. So this is the part where you give value. So what are you going to do? You're just going to tell them how to do it. In order to migrate, I'll need to check the database type. Is it using Bookshelf or Mongo? So you're going to ask that, or I guess the ORM type or whatever. And then you're going to be like, once we figure that out, so instead of stopping here with just the question, because this will be a close. You're like, question, right? If you only stop at the question, then they won't necessarily answer, because they don't know if it's worth even answering. It may be a waste of time for them to answer the question, because you're clueless. You don't know what you're doing. Well, instead, if you ask a question, but you also offer value. So for example, in order to migrate, I'll have to migrate the settings from the settings.json files into a new file called server.js. This also, and then you can give them even more value. This also allows to use the new env function that grants access to the process.env variable, which makes it possible to have dynamic configuration on a per environment basis. Okay, and then you can ask, you're just going to ask the question, what is the database? Which simple question, which database are you using? Boom. How, like, if this person is actually looking for an expert and they need help on this, how likely are you to be chosen? If they don't read your text, you're not going to be chosen. You can't do anything about that. But if they were to read your text, how likely are you to be chosen if you do this, instead of saying, I'm Alex, I am a Strapi developer, I charge $200. Like, what are the odds? And why is that though? It's because they The way you look at it is you basically sold, like you can also say I have a master's degree, I have a degree, I'm a course author. I could even brag. Okay, I could even brag, but it doesn't matter because I'm not offering value here. There's no value here. It's just, okay, I'm cool, give me money. This one is actually, no, this is an advice, this is helpful, take this, and then ask for reciprocity back. So basically you're using, you're being nice, you're being a nice person, and you're spending an extra 2 minutes to give an advice that will help them. And if they are nice, just like you, they will read the advice and they'll be like, this person is an expert, I'm going to work with them. So it's as simple as that. And we can spend the rest of the afternoon doing examples, but at the end of the day, the entire point is that you just want to offer value, and then you just ask for reciprocity. The smaller the reciprocity you ask, the more likely you are. Just like if I were to ask you to visit a YouTube video, you would be maybe all 8 of you would just click on it. While if I were to ask you to buy my course, maybe 1 or 2 of you would. And maybe if I were to ask you to pay me $100 an hour for a consulting job, maybe none of you would today, but maybe a few of you would in a week or a month or whatever. Or maybe if there was 100 of you, then 1 of you would actually do that. So it's just a question of how big do you make your funnel of, in a way of gratitude, and then you just do that. And you will find that some people exploit you. Those people that try and exploit you, you have to be extremely aggressive and defend yourself. But most like 99% of people are just super nice people. They just want to get the job done. If you offer them this value initially, they realize you're an expert and they're just going to work with you. So hopefully this helps you and get started. But all of this conversation is useless if you don't have a portfolio. If you don't have a portfolio, you're wasting your time. And a lot of people are like, why, blah, blah, blah. When do I build a portfolio? Just look at my YouTube channel. I'm just going to go on my YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe right now, because I'm plugging my YouTube channel. So you may as well just subscribe. And you can look at the quality of the videos that I make. And you got to be like, let's be kind of realistic on the quality of the videos that I make. Like, let's look at the first few videos that I make 9 months ago. Like, let's just look at this one. And these were like literally, I used to call it the daily code mentor. I would basically coach and be paid, coach 101, and then I would make a video every day. And I did that for a couple of weeks and then I got bored. But look at the quality of this video. There's almost no quality. It's just a screen share. It's just a screen share with a bunch of images with zero design. I just use Helvetica, and then I use a screen share of the websites that I worked on. There's very little care in the video. But why is that? Because instead of waiting to have high quality product, I just got in the pool. I just got started. Instead of waiting to be an expert at freelancing, I just created my portfolio. My initial portfolio looks like garbage, but at least I have one portfolio. At least I can play the game. Okay? So you want to play the game first, and then you want to improve later. Don't wait on that. Don't let your dreams be dreams. Just do it. Just do the portfolio today. Just do a freaking portfolio. Do the best portfolio you can. And then you can always make it better. Look at me, and I think I already showed this, but I've transcended this game. I don't have a portfolio. My portfolio is from 5 or 6 years ago. It's complete garbage. Why? Because you don't need a portfolio once you do good enough. But in order to get started, you need a portfolio. So just do something that is better than nothing, and then you can always improve on it. So make sure to have a portfolio done. If you set your deadline for 2 or 3 weeks, that's the deadline. Now you have to do it. You have to do it. And then the second you do it, you're going to start raking in some extra cash. Like there's no way you're not going to. It's impossible. Like this is how the world works. I'm telling you, this is how the world works. And there's a lot of hassles. There's people that will scam you. There's a lot of bad stuff, but the majority of people are nice. So if you give yourself a chance, you'll find that most people will want to work with you as long as you put their interest first, because you're doing a company. You have to care about the company. If you care about the company, you're going to be extremely successful. So just do that. I'm going to read Same's message. I will have to jump out on our call. We watched the remaining. I'm not a developer. Enjoy. Thank you, Same. Thank you very much for spending a little bit of time with me. I haven't purchased your course to boost my developer. I very much appreciate that. You are literally my target audience, the entrepreneurs that change the world, or at least try and, the least try and do something. So I'm very happy to have your viewership. Thank you very much for your viewership, and have an amazing day. And hopefully this entire video, which you can go back in the last hour or so, in which I was coaching Mehdi. Hopefully this video can be like a very simple blueprint of how like a person with a basic level of skills, like you took a couple of courses, you spent maybe 6 months, you probably spent a little longer knowing you, Mehdi, but like you spent a little bit of time in financing your skill, and now it's time to receive back. And the way to receive back is that there's a little bit, again, ciao Samir, thank you very much. And like the way to receive back is that you have that skill. Like imagine that you had gold. Imagine that you literally had gold and you have to give gold to other people. Now you have to find a way to convince people that what you have is actually gold. And I can give you the best example ever. Like this is actually really cool. It would be, I think it's The Rock Show by Blink 182. I'm not going to show the video, I guess, because I'm paranoid for copyright. But the video in The Rock Show, they give away $1 million to homeless people in Los Angeles. Actually, they just spend money, but they also give to homeless people. And the hardest thing that the hardest challenge that they had to face was being able to convince people that when they gave them the money was real, because it just makes no sense. Like how in the world would somebody just come in and give you free money, free cash? Like where's the scam, you know? So in the same way, how in the world is it that I'm going to find this perfect developer that is so good and so experienced and is going to help me out of nothing? The answer is you won't. You're not going to find him, because the majority of people give zero fucks. Again, going back to the example that I just gave, the majority of people, they're just going to write, I'm the best, I will do it well, hire me. That's literally all they're going to do, which is worthless. This is worthless. This is the worst thing ever. This is a complete waste of time, a huge disrespect to the people that are reading it. Nobody cares, because nobody cares. This is what people want. They want to receive some value. They want to understand that you're competent, and then they want to have a way to keep the conversation going. That's literally it. If you use this 10 seconds approach, and basically it's called the give a fuck approach. You just have to care. Let's call it the care approach. If you care about people, people will care about you. That's as simple as it goes. So going back to the Strapi example, you just tell them how they could do it or the process that you're going to take, and then you ask them a new question so that the conversation keeps going. They're going to answer, it's Mongo. And then you'll be like, well, with Mongo, we also need to migrate the database. Also, there's like a weird bug with Mongo. SSL needs to be turned to XYZ. I don't remember, but there's actually a quirkiness to migrating with Mongo. And then you just are like, do you, I would quote, you just quote XYZ, let's say a migration. I'll just give you the real price. Like out of the code like this, I would probably quote it $1,000. This would be $1,000. If they told me a little bit more, maybe I would quote it for less. But then you're like, I will quote $1,000, and then you'd be like, I can change my quote. I can refine my quote by looking at the source code. And then you could be like, is the code hosted on GitHub? So this will be a little riskier because you're quoted high. But you could also just say, I can give you a quote by looking at the source code. Is the code hosted on GitHub? And then you look at the code and then you give them the real quote. The quote is X, and then click on the green button to pay, to proceed, or something like that. So basically you just give them, you gave them value. They know you clearly know how to do your job. And then you give them a chance to, you explain to them how to keep it forward. So that's as simple. I personally had a better experience with Upwork than with Fiverr. So I would recommend using Upwork in my experience. I started when it was called Odesk. So it was a long time ago. It used to be called Odesk. It used to be blue. So this is how it looked when I started. But Odesk, I think I never was successful with Elance, so I was very successful with Upwork though. And Fiverr, when it comes to Fiverr, I think I used to sell like graphic design stuff, so it was completely outside my comfort zone, so never went anywhere. I think now in 2020, Fiverr is actually a decent solution, but it's very hard to have this kind of dynamic that I just showed you. Like you basically want people that tell you their problems and then you can solve them. So I think Upwork is great because of that. People are like, I have this problem, and you can be like, here's the solution. Please give me money. So it's a very straightforward process. And typically, I'm also like better at like catching, catching fish, like hunting fish rather than actually waiting for the fish to come. So I'm more like a hunter than a trapper. Where like if you use Fiverr, you're like setting up your trap, which is like your page, and then people come in. Well, I prefer more to reach out to people that have a need and help them. I'm more like that's more like my character. So yeah, you can do both. You can do whatever you want, but you need to have a portfolio. You need to engage with clients. That's the point, and you need to go through a lot of them. Like you should be talking to maybe 50 people a week. You want to make very good money, like very like $10 an hour is a joke to you. You want to talk to 50 people a week. That's probably the number. 50 people a week, I would say. So Sandeep says, let me tell you one of the really good content. Thank you very much, Sandeep. I very much appreciate it. I very much appreciate the compliment. It's the two biggest thing for me are like people that actually put it into use. So hopefully you can use the knowledge that I made in the course to to improve your life, to make more money, to build your own project, which is what I'm uh, more advocating. I personally will gear my channel more towards getting people to build their own stuff. That's where I see myself. That's the type of people that I want to hang out with. But at the same time, you wanna get there. Yeah, Mehdi, you want to talk to 50 people a week. That's the number, and you got to be realistic. You're not gonna be able to do that on Upwork. Excuse me, on LinkedIn. You can do it on Upwork because there's gonna be 50 candidatures coming to you. But on LinkedIn, you're gonna have to pay like $2 per person, so it's gonna be like $100 a week. You can't do that when you get started. So you want to go on a platform that will take a cut off of your margins, but in exchange they give you a flow of clients that have needs. So you want to look at it that way. There's the river, and the platform is the river, and then the spear is what I just showed you. This is the spear. The spear is offer value, ask for reciprocity. This is how I would do it. Do you want to do it with me? This is how to do it. Do it with me. That's really what it is. Yeah, yeah. On building your own stuff, I guess we can talk a little bit about entrepreneurship in general. If any of you have ambition for entrepreneurship, this is like the time where we can cover that. But the point with entrepreneurship is that, or I guess the way I lived it as a former, or I guess current freelancer or whatever, versus entrepreneur is that freelancing, like you do it because you have to, right? Because you have to. Like, what are you gonna do? You have to put money on the plate, right? But then you'll eventually become good enough, both skill plus sales process, because you have to have both, that you get to choose your clients. This is where I see myself now. Like I see myself in a position where I can choose my clients. So like like if you're gonna be rude to me, for example, I'm literally not gonna work with you because I don't need that. Even if you were to give me like let's say you even gave me $200 an hour, if you're a douchebag and you make my life miserable, I'm not gonna work with you because I don't need that. So I'm not gonna do it. But that's a point that you get to by working enough. Like when you start, you're gonna have to accept anything because it's called beggars can't be choosers. It's called beggars can't be choosers. Beggars can't be choosers. And it's kind of sad to say, but it's the reality. Like, get your first few gigs, then complain and change. And then what I did is use the frustration to build my own projects. I always add my own projects. Like you can actually find my stuff online. You can search for Alex Squash. And on the side, I will make videos about playing squash, and I would write a book, and I taught myself marketing and all this stuff. And it never panned out in this case. And then you just try something new. I have tens of projects that I failed. I can't wait to talk about them. I just don't think I'm successful enough to talk about my failures. So I don't think they're meaningful now. But like I can assure you, like this is how you learn. This is how I learned to do marketing. This is how I learned about making money and sales online, by failing, by just trying something. So you can do the same thing. You can just try. Like, and honestly, the biggest motto for motivation, I'll give you my motivation motto. Like my motivation motto is very simple. It's like, if you stop now, that's where you're at. Like it's not gonna get better. It's not gonna get better by itself, right? It's just only gonna get worse because you're gonna get old and you're gonna just get ingrained in your habits. So you may as well do something about it. May as well do something. You just may as well try something. Fuck it, you know? So Code Canyon, Gumroad, selling on Code Canyon, Gumroad. So I actually got banned from Gumroad. I don't know why. I think because I got a chargeback. So they banned me. So I'm not interested in using them for no particular reason. Code Canyon, basically, I'll tell you this, Faizan, about making courses, especially if you live in a country where internet connection is not that good. In my case, I'm in Italy. My internet connection used to be way worse. Now it's a little better, but it's not that great. So like more, even the same course, like having the same course in multiple channels is a hustle, is a hustle, like is a lot of work. So you want to focus. So my experience, something that I've noticed very early is that I used to have a Podia version versus an Udemy version. I still have a Podia version if you're interested, but I'm planning to retire it by the end of next month. And the reason why is because nobody wants the Podia. Nobody buys it. So I'm I'm a pragmatic person. Like nobody wants the Podia version. So my understanding of it is that if you're gonna pay $7 on Podia, like you're gonna pay less on Podia, but you're gonna pay $12 or whatever on Udemy, people want Udemy. So there's no reason to do Podia. If I'm gonna do a $150 course, let's say I do the professional freelancing course with let's say weekly mentoring. If I do something like that, then I'll sell it for $150. I cannot sell this on Udemy. I cannot sell on Udemy because Udemy will always discount it. So I just can't. So in that case, I would use a separate platform, but I would rather have one than many. And this is something that I've noticed with affiliates is that most of the time affiliates just bring bad karma. Like a, like let me put it to you this way: would you rather get $1 or would you rather get in one star review, okay, or would you rather get $0 and no review? That's the question. So like it's not always best to just increase your audience, because if you increase it to the wrong people, the people that actually don't care, you're just going to get hammered. Like it's a real thing. Just I look at it from my videos. Like whenever my videos start getting a lot of more traffic, they start to get also more downvotes because it's starting to go into an audience that don't care about me. And I don't necessarily want to care about them either. So I'd rather focus on my core audience that actually appreciates the work that I do. So, and that audience takes time to grow. So you want to, paradoxically, you want to take the time to grow rather than just grow for the sake of growing. And that's fine as long as you enjoy what you're doing. If you enjoy what you're doing, you'll always be good. So I'm just going to hang out for a few more minutes. I'll basically just refill my coffee. I'll be back in a minute. And I'll do maybe another quick sprint of Q&A. I love it. Okay, so I'm back. I'm gonna go for a little bit more Q&A. If you have a quick question or even a long question, I'm not gonna just basically I did this live stream to prevent myself from working too much because I have pain here, and if I don't take the full weekend off from coding, I'm just gonna have more pain. Trying to sell my project as a product. It's not a course. What do you think? What do I think about selling stuff on Code Canyon? I don't really have an opinion on Code Canyon, but the only 2 cents that I have are this. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you this thing that I learned from selling. So let me say selling strategies. So I'm sure you're all aware of what Apple is doing, and I think Apple is an amazing lesson. It's an amazing lesson in sales, in strategy that we can all take a bite off of, you know. So basically, what does Apple do compared to let's say even Microsoft? Even though things have changed, but let's just look at the classic Microsoft versus Apple. So first of all, there's a movie that I would highly recommend. It's called The Pirates of Silicon Valley. It's a very I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was an amazing movie. So it's a great movie if you're into tech and entrepreneurship. It's called Pirates of Silicon Valley. And it's basically the story of Microsoft and Apple. And it's the story of how in 1984, there's the Apple commercial, and basically Apple wins. Apple won. Apple was the bigger company. And then they kick off Steve Jobs. And then Apple is 1/10 of Microsoft. Okay. And then if you look at recent history, Apple releases the iPhone, and basically Apple became bigger than Microsoft. It never became 10 times Microsoft, but it became bigger than Microsoft. So basically it regained power. And maybe we can look at Apple stock right now versus MSFT stock. So we have $368. Where's the market cap? 1.66 trillion. So basically they have the same market cap, which is, I haven't checked. Like last time I checked, Microsoft was at like $600 billion. So very interesting to see how inflated these prices are. You know, my 2 cents, I guess. You know, the hot take. But anyway, why is that? The reason why is because Apple's philosophy is of has always been of making things simple. Make it simple. And I want to show you my Udemy. I'll just show you something that is public information. So if you search on Udemy for Strapi course, you're going to find my course. If you search on Code Mentor for my profile, you should have access to my profile because it's public information. So, and whatever. But basically, you can see that I have worked with almost 500 people, and I can tell you that this has happened in less than a year. And you can see that it's charged at a very steep price. And if you look at my reviews, you'll see that all my reviews are 5 stars. I have 0 complaints. I actually have a couple of complaints, but you can see them. But basically 99.999% of people that paid me basically 4x the amount of money they paid me for the Strapi course have a better experience. They basically have a better experience than these people, where I'm getting 4.5, which is actually 4.45, and it's going down, and it's getting attacked by all angles, by people that either want me to do extra work for them, people that don't really like the content, people that were bored and they just put 1 star for whatever reason. And the way I see that, and that's something that also, what's it called? The Rossmann group talks about, I don't remember which video, but Louis Rossmann talks about this in one of his videos. And he talks about the fact that if you price yourself at a lower price point, you can't be as good or as nice. So he clearly runs a completely different niche from mine. He runs a repair business. But the point that he makes is that if you try and sell something for cheap, you can't offer the same experience to people, and you can't offer the same quality of service, and people will take it for granted even more, because the only reason why they chose you is because of the price. You're no longer a person, you're no longer a professional, you're no longer a set of skills, you are a price. So people choose you because of a price. So you have to keep that in mind. Whenever you price something low, you are no longer selling yourself, you're selling your price.
On the other hand, if you took quote unquote the Apple approach of selling the service, you will have to price it higher because you can't make it work if you price it lower. But at the same time, you're gonna have more people that resonate with you. So you're gonna have, like, Apple philosophy is half of the world will never afford us. Like, I'm just gonna be honest, will never afford us. They don't care. The other half will crave us. That's the point. It's like a fashion brand, right? So what I'm saying, all in all, to give the whatever, that's okay, doesn't matter. But I don't think it's him. But anyway, that would be hilarious. One star from him. That would be fucking hilarious. But and that's where you see, like, I see so many people that I didn't even notice. But the point that I'm trying to make is you can sell Uber, you can sell an Uber clone on Code Canyon for 35 to 60 bucks, or you can sell it online, right, for 10 grand. Okay, what is the real difference? Like, this is like a philosophical question. What is the real difference? You think it's the quality? No, man, it's not the quality. It's how you sell it. It's just how you sell it. That's it. You can do a Uber clone and you can sell it for 35 bucks or 60 bucks on Code Canyon, or you can sell it for 10 grand. I don't think anybody on Code Canyon will ever buy it for 10 grand, but I think there's people that have sold it for 10 grand outside of Code Canyon, and they simply have a different sales process. Yeah, I hope you got the advice that I wanted to give, because this is years of experience, and I've it's honest. Like, that's why I love. There's just something about people that earned their position, or they earned their success. They're just very honest people. They tend to be very straightforward, because we're just blunted out. Like, the experience of life just melts the shit away. So if you want to sell it for 35 to 60 bucks, that's cool. But if you want to sell it for 10 grand, that's not how it works. And the same argument can be applied to my course. So my mistake, or my approach of selling the course for 10 bucks definitely backfired if I wanted to sell it for maybe 500 bucks. Because I can assure you that there's a reality where I sell my course to maybe 10 people a month, and I sell it for this amount. I can assure you the course is the same. It's just a different sales process. I chose this one for various reasons, but my main reason has to do with Medi, actually. But anyway, the main reason for that 10 bucks Medi was that I had to get feedback early. So I had to release the course. I couldn't keep the course. I had to release the course. Like, I would just go insane if I would work another 3 or 6 months without seeing people use it. So that's why I do it. But if you do a product launch, you prepare it, you study it, you market it, that's the number you want to do. 497 per person. Same course, 26 hours of content. The difference is I sold it when it was 9 hours. That's when I started releasing the course, when it was 9 hours. So I thought it was properly priced that way. And I still have to put myself a team of marketers and stuff. I'm kind of a single show. I'm starting to get an editor for videos, and I most likely will have a marketing mentor by the end of the year. So once I have those and you see all the pieces come in place, you'll see that my strategies will change completely. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. That said, no, I'm pretty sure it's not that person that gave the review, but I'm completely fine. Everybody's entitled with their opinion. So Faizan, I hope this helps you. I think you should do it, but I also want you to really think of the fact that the difference between selling code for 60 bucks or selling code for 10 grand is the sales process. So once you did that, thank you, Yellow Cab, for the appreciation for the course. I very much appreciate that. I hope it helps you with making more money and stuff. Okay, thank you, Faizan, for changing the rating. I appreciate that. It was you. Okay, man. Thank you very much, bro. So I appreciate you change the review. That said, let's see what else do we got. So we got Yellow Cab asking me about building something complex like social network with Strapi. So this is one thing that I would add to the course. I would call it like something like Strapi recipes. So maybe we're gonna do one recipe today, just because just cause. I'm gonna start talking a little less loud because my voice is starting to go off after 2 hours of talking. So if you can't hear me, let me know. I'll try and adjust the gains or something. But this microphone should have auto gain, so it should basically raise the volume by itself. Thank you, Mehdi, for catching that. So thank you, Faizan, for the review. I very much appreciate that. It actually means a lot, and it does impact a lot, unfortunately. Like. It doesn't matter if I have 26 hours of course. If the course is poorly rated, nobody's going to buy it. It's just the reality of it. So, and it doesn't matter that they reviewed it when it was like 9 hours or when it was shorter. So it's just the reality of it. You just deal with it. But let's look at building a social network with Strapi. Well, first of all, Yellow Cab, we have a section of the course. So since you bought it, there is a section of the course, which is at the beginning of the course now. I've added it recently. It's called the Quick Start. And it's this first 9 section up here, Quick Start 1 to 9, where we basically build a Instagram clone. I go as far as calling it IG, because that's basically what it is. But it's basically a photo sharing application with likes functionality. So if you take that approach of users, images, or posts, users, posts, and likes, you basically have all your elements to build a social network. So that's where you want to get started. So let's start with that. I'm just going to build my blocks. I'm going to call it users. So what is users? Users is your collection type that you have by default from Strapi. Then you have post. A post is going to have an image and a title. And let's do that just for the sake of simplicity. And then you're going to have likes. What are likes? Likes are a relationship between, so this will be our, I graduated 2 years ago, already forgot the entity relationships diagrams because I never use them in my job, but you probably will do this as a star, I would assume, because it will be like a relation. So let's do it as a star, as a diamond, because that's basically what it is. It's a relation between the two, right? So how do you take it from there? Well, you're just going to add activity, because most likely you want to track activity. Okay, Faizan, that's cool. So I'm not sure if it's if you are the person that I think, but basically, from my experience, people that tend to ask me like a lot of questions in one go are typically the exploitative type. And so I've worked for many years and I've been exploited by many people. So I probably just had a very emotional reaction, and I didn't mean to offend you. I just meant to defend myself. So if you want to keep using the Q&A functionality on the course, I typically answer within a day to any question on the Q&A, and you can ask me 100 questions. I don't mind that at all. It's just that I only answer the Q&A because of the exploitative type that has happened multiple times. So feel free to keep using the Q&A. Thank you for the start. It's okay. At this point, I'm going to keep going with the users, likes, and posts. So you probably want to add activity, which most likely will be a collection type that basically would aggregate multiple types of activities such as likes and comments. And if you think about it, what a comment is just a like with an extra attribute, right? Because it just has the content attribute. So it would have like a content. So that's kind of the entire point. We can keep building on this. Yeah, it's the star is cached, so drop that thing. If you have any other questions, something else, I'm happy to talk about that. But let's we're adults, we don't have to do that. So we have that's basically it, Yellow Cab, when it comes to social networks. Like at the end of the day, you're just gonna have a bunch of relations between users and something else. The one thing that I mentioned about the activity is that you want to keep track of activity, and activity will be in the form of user X did Y, which will be like or comment. Let me rewrite this to comment. And then on post, and it needs to be something like literally user did X, Y, user X did Y on post Z, at time delta. Because if you don't do that, once you build a social network and you don't have this kind of granular activity, you're just going to go insane. People are going to hack you. You're going to lose history. People are going to abuse the system. And if you can't track history of every single operation that is done, and you don't do it in a way where a human being can read it, not a machine, but a human being, you're just going to go insane. People are going to exploit the system. So that's one of the most important things. It's called, I honestly don't know how to call it, but basically it's just like Bitcoin. How is Bitcoin built? Bitcoin, we could argue the biggest achievement of the last 20 years, if we think about technology. We can argue there's others, but Bitcoin is a pretty smart thing, right? So how does Bitcoin does it? They track every single transaction. Specifically, they have what is called the TX in and the TX out. So you have the transaction in and the transaction out. All the transaction out are tracked. So every single transaction is basically the result of an in that becomes a bunch of outs. And from those outs, you can have balances and you can keep track of how much everybody owns. So the reason why they do that is because that way, if there's an issue with the history, where somebody tampers with the history, you can always verify it. And through the process of hashing, I'm not sure if they use graphs in, I think they do, but let's say, I don't remember the technicality of it, but through a process of hashing graphs, you can basically know whether a graph has been tampered with up to a certain point. And that makes it extremely fast to verify as long as you have the entire history. So as long as you track user X did Y on post Z at time delta. So that's something I would highly recommend on that. So yes, man, you answered my question whenever I was stuck. Very happy to help Saksam. And again, make sure to use this knowledge and the Q&A to, to make as much money as you can to improve your situation. Because that's really the entire point. The entire point is that you can leverage my knowledge to use as your own knowledge and use the skill to improve your life. That's the entire point. So if you're learning Strapi but you're not applying it, I would highly recommend you try and apply it, because you could be building applications in a week. Like I think the next, my ideal course, my next ideal course will be surely priced higher, but it will be 7 days to build your startup. That would be my next course. That's the ideal course I want to build. Where, like, if you look at it, let's say React, then semantic UI, or it used to be semantic UI because Steven Grider made it very popular, but now it's probably going to be material UI, whatever. Let's pick one. React, this, and then Strapi. You have no excuses, like no excuses. You're supposed to be able to build your startup in 7 days. You can build your company in 7 days. I'm not telling you that you can launch a company and be successful at it, but you can build your MVP in 7 days, because you have all the skills. Like if you have these skills, you can build your prototype in 7 days. There's no exception to it. Clearly, if you want to build something that is super complicated, super convoluted, it's going to take longer, but you can always do what is called a MVP. You can always take some parts of it and build it faster. So you can always do that. Amazing. One thing that bothers me, friends or followers. Thank you, Yellow Cab. I appreciate that. So you're telling me about friends or followers. Yeah, so that was something that I've considered adding to the initial project. I just think the main challenge with the project is that it's already like 5 hours. So adding more functionality would have caused too much attrition. So that's why I didn't end up doing. So let's look at followers, because it's something that I've actually, I actually went through the process of thinking and coding it too. So I can tell you about building the followers functionality. So what's the main problem is privacy, right? That's the real problem in a social network. The issue is privacy. The issue is permissions to access information. So basically the way I looked at it is, if you put /users as accessible, you are doomed. You're done. You're going to be called by the European Union. You're going to be zucked. If you do that, you're going to be zucked, right? You're zucked. So you don't want to do that. What you're going to do is you're going to create maybe a discover. So let's look at Instagram. I think Instagram requires authentication to access it, but maybe we can get an image of it. Yeah, the Instagram is the one I'm not gonna plug, but let me see. So typically when you have an Instagram account, you're always gonna have like this stuff, but you're also gonna have the recommended users. And that's how you would go about finding more people. Let's assume that the recommended users, you can only see their name, their tag, and their just their tag. Let's just say you can only see their tag. So maybe you can build a custom endpoint called /discover, which would find a bunch of users. So it would be users. I'll just write it out for you. Like I will actually write it out for you. So it will be something like strapi.services dot plugins square bracket. It's actually strapi dot plugins square bracket users dash permissions find. No, but it's going to be fetch all. It's going to be fetch all because it's the old school name. And then in the fetch all, you're going to have let's just say you're going to fetch all, and then you probably will filter by friend. Then you filter manually by not already being friends. And then you can say, well, if they're friends, so if friends, then you can return the entire user. Otherwise, else, you're just going to strip some stuff. So you can do something like users.map user, and then you just return an object that is going to have name user.name. So that way, this will be the filtered, right? Const secured equals to that, and you can just return that. Maybe if you want to be super paranoid, you can even sanitize this, which you can get a sanitizing function for it. But like you can sanitize the username to avoid any injection. Although if you use React, it's already sanitized for you. So, and then you just return secured. So that way you can do it that if they're friends, you're going to return all of the info. But if they're not friends, you're just going to return the name. So you basically build a custom controller to do that. And there's going to be some nuance to it, but this is definitely how you want to get started. You want to create like a discover or find users, and then you want to keep track of the current user. So most likely you're going to have something like const user equals ctx.state, and then if not user, then you're going to ctx.throw, which means that you call an exception on it. And that way you're like, well, you need to be logged in, right? So maybe we can actually do a 403. So since you're forbidden, but we can do a 401 so we can keep track of it. And that would be it. I think that's a great starting point for you to build a secure social network. When it comes to scaling, honestly, I can't tell you because I don't have the experience of scaling something so massive. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to looking at the video that I've made on optimizing loading. So Strapi loading. So look at the latest video that I released on my channel. And I think this is kind of part of a new strategy that I'm going to make of making this kind of videos that are more informational, because I couldn't find a way to make this into like a very thorough lecture. But I'll have a bunch of lectures as well, because I think they're very useful. But I'll try and use these ones to increase my audience, because I think this is how you get a little more audience. And you can see whether it works or not. Basically, you can improve loading, and then you look deeper into caching and stuff like that. But that's how you're going to be able to build your social network. Strapi course, following it, Planish for end using Vue.js. Thank you very much, Keenan. I very much appreciate that. And yeah, Vue.js is an amazing framework. From my experience, if I were to give 2 cents on Vue, like my 2 cents on Vue versus React is Vue is perfect for incremental, incremental usage, let's call it. So basically you can build widgets in seconds. You can also use it standalone, so it's perfect for that as well. And honestly, Vue is probably what, from the experiences I had, Vue is basically just a different twist on React. So they're both amazing frameworks and they work really well, with the added advantage that Vue is very easy to use for incremental usage. So let's say I were to build a company where like you can have, let's say I build a company where you can have your profile as a freelancer, and then I'm going to build a widget, and I use Next.js because I have an SEO strategy. It goes back to that idea. But then I can have my widget, and I would probably use Vue for it, because it's, I know there's a way to do React widgets, but I can assure you it's very complicated and very annoying. You just use Vue, 2 seconds, attach it to anchor point, the Vue instance works, and it's amazing. So props to you for using Vue. very smart decision. So I'm gonna hang out for a few more minutes. I think I'm gonna call it because my voice is dying. And what I'll do the rest of the day is I'll just take a bunch of the topics we covered and I'll start making videos on those. I think the last advice I want to give you for career, especially as an entrepreneur or as a freelancer, biggest career advice as freelancer or entrepreneur is this concept. I'll want to make a video on this, but the main concept is called leverage. Like leverage. This is how do you make money? How do you make money? How do you make impact? How do you make anything in life? It's called leverage. Like if you think about it, that's what it is. We use technology, like the simplest human example ever would be, we use technology to leverage our skills to do more. Like why do you use React over vanilla JavaScript? Because you're leveraging technology to do more. Why do you use Strapi instead of Node.js and Express? Because you use technology to leverage to do more. So that's the point. Think about anything that you're doing. Anything you do, basically anything you do, if you can do it so that it impacts more than one goal, is literally how successful you're going to be. It's how successful you'll be. So if you do these videos and you do them just to do them, they're cool because you may enjoy the act of doing the video, and I do. But if you do the video to grow the channel and to have a relationship with your students and to understand how the audience is doing and which direction you're going for, and to understand what the next step is, and you're aligning your stuff, and at the same time you're working on improvisational content, which is kind of what I want to do because my ideal will be to be a public speaker, and then you do that as a way to also generate content. Now you're leveraging your time. I'm not just making a video, I'm thinking of the next topic. I already have a bunch of videos here. All I have to do now is actually polish them, because to polish them takes way longer than than it used to, because you can look at the quality of my videos as it changed in the last 9 months. I've started like 9 months ago, this live stream would have been the video. Now I'm starting to add some more production value, etc. And that's how I will leave you with. The advice I will leave you with is leverage as much as you can, but don't use it as an excuse. So you want to do as much as you can in the sense that this one thing is creating content now, is helping you, is making me happier, is showing me that people actually care, and it's generating more content while I'm working on my improvisational speaking. And so it's amazing. It's a win-win for all of us. At the same time, if there was no students and there was nothing and it was a complete disaster, or if I had nothing to talk about, it would still be worth trying because I would learn from it. So the end of the point is that you want to learn from it, and you can learn as a developer, which we are, let's call it the introverts type. You learn as a developer, as an introvert, you learn as much as you get feedback. You don't learn as much as you learn something. The students right now listening in the chat, you're not learning now. You're not. Me, I'm just telling you a bunch of stuff. You will learn if you use this. If you don't use this, you learn nothing. You've learned nothing. You're just entertaining yourself. Instead of looking at some gossip stuff or looking at Rick and Morty, you're looking at a nerd talking on a screen, but it's entertainment. You will learn in the measure in which you will actually use it. And you will actually learn in the measure in which other people use it, and you look at what they do with how they use it. Just like I'm learning from you. The real learning right now is happening with me and you, because you are teaching me what you want, and so I can serve more people. So if you think about it, learning is feedback. And it's feedback in the measure in which you use leverage to actually get more stuff done. So be very, very respectful of your time. And I'm very much appreciative of you sharing your time with me. At the same time, always try and do more than one thing at the time. And whenever you're doing only one thing, it has to be on purpose, because sometimes you have to focus. For example, when I develop, I almost never listen to music because I'm focusing. And so it makes sense that I don't even listen to music. I don't do anything. I just focus on that. It's the one task. but more other things such as marketing, especially, they tend to require this kind of leverage where this content could also be turned into audio, and from audio I can do a PDF, or I can do the podcast or whatever. So I'm leveraging my own time more effectively. I see that I need to recharge my MacBook, so I'll be back in a second. And yeah, if you have any other quick question, I'll just look at those. I'll just be answering them till the end of the hour, and then I'll bounce. I'll be back in a minute. Pretty decent lighting too. That's not bad. Okay, so I'm gonna look at this question. I'll answer them. Background, do you want to move away from WordPress? Are you excited about blockchain development? Okay, I'm gonna answer these questions and I'll answer a few more if they come up. But yeah, I'm kind of cutting it or whatever. But I'm actually enjoying it. So maybe I'll just take a break and we can do another hour or so. So, okay, since you move away from WordPress, why? No, since I have a background in WordPress, which I do, why do I want to move away from it? So, okay, so the way I look at this is WordPress has been, and the reason why I've invested so much in Strapi is that WordPress has been the biggest paradigm shift from my point of view in the development community ever, because WordPress was free. WordPress was free. And yet, from my understanding, WordPress generated more money for the service economy than ever. Why? Because everybody bought it, everybody used it for free. But then they needed a developer, right? And so they needed a developer. And so you basically come in and you offer your work. So it was amazing. And that's what I believe in Strapi as well. That's why Strapi is such a massively, it has huge potential. That's why I kind of double down on it instead of, I could be talking about Ghost, Sanity. There's a lot of other CMSs, but I believe that the Strapi is doing it the proper way of going the open source route, because this is what can happen, that you literally build something that so many people use that actually ends up generating opportunities for at every level. I have the content level, I may go on the consulting level. Every single one of you has 100% the development opportunity. You may also be building plugins, you may be building content. So there's a lot of blocks that could be covered, a lot of smaller industry related to this topic that are opened up by the fact that this is open source. So it's a huge opportunity. So when it comes to moving away from WordPress, I'll just tell you the reality of it. Look at it from my point of view. My point of view is, my POV is, I would have to learn PHP 7, which PHP 7 apparently is the good PHP. So maybe there's actually is such thing as a good PHP that actually solves all PHP issues, which most of the time are actually to do with frameworks. So you can always use a framework if you're working with PHP. But my point of view is that I don't have enough of an incentive to do that, because I have enough business, enough biz in JS that there's no incentive. Like, why would I go to something that has less business or the same amount of business, especially when I'm working on an industry where I may be riding the wave? Maybe we'll look back in a year from now, and maybe all the big content creators will literally like eliminate me. I'm gonna be gone. You're never gonna see me again, because the rest of the content creators are gonna cover Strapi so thoroughly, so efficiently that there's no space for a new content creator. But the way I see it, there is a huge opportunity for a content creator to niche down on it. And so that's what I decided to do. And if I'm wrong, I'll just take the lesson, and you can take the lesson as well. So that's why I wouldn't go back to WordPress, but I still do consult. I just charge a absurd amount of money. So there's probably I charge more money than most consultant ever on something that most people would charge very little. So that's my experience. But again, I've used WordPress to literally build companies out of nothing. So I have huge respect for it. And if you were to tell me that you want to launch a company tomorrow, there may be a case in which I would recommend using WordPress as well. So I've only have utmost respect for it. It's an amazing tool, highly recommended. Would even use it to this day, for example, for building blogs or SEO stuff. So I love it, but I just wouldn't go back to it. But I'm excited about blockchain development. So it's kind of funny that I'm involved with a blockchain startup called Poly.market, with which we're doing very well. Yeah, I love it. Love a good PHP. Yeah, exactly, the good PHP. But no, the truth about the PHP, I'll just give you this think piece. The problem about PHP is the reputation. It's not actually that it's a bad language, and it's not that it's bad in itself. It's just the reputation. It has a very awful reputation, and this is bound to just get worse, because that's like, it's the same thing with my course. Like, you never see my course go too higher. Even if I 10x my course, it's not gonna go 10x higher in reputation. I'm just gonna have to launch a second version, literally a new course, because the way it works is that the expectations are set when you launch, and then it can only go downhill. So it's just I guess it's just the way this reputation thing in our brain works. So excited about blockchain development. Um, I'm really excited about blockchain in general. A couple of opportunities that I see are in notarization, especially in Europe. Notarization, or the act of using hash stored inside of the blockchains for giving proof of existence of proof of documents, is a thing, and it's legal in many states of Europe. So I'm looking into that. That's something that I think is a great opportunity. Could also be powered by Strapi for your backend if you want to. Like, if you can build an Ethereum contract like that, you can use the Strapi to be extremely successful. But I'm definitely not an expert on that. So if I were to do a play on blockchain, I would probably be working with an expert on that. And I know a few of them, and I can assure you that the web development skills versus the Web3 skills are very different, completely different people. And from my experience, the best developers in blockchain tend to also be younger, because they got started with it. So they're used to quote unquote lower standards. They're used to actually grinding it out even more. Like, if you look at React is child's play, especially if you grew up working with PHP or stuff like that, or even C. Like, it's child's play. It's so easy. It's so easy to do it right. It's very hard to mess up. But blockchain stuff, just like C, it's way easier to mess it up, and it has way worse consequences. So I think there's like a very distinct separation between those two skills. So I'm very excited with it, but I don't think I'll get to play in that, although I'm looking at it. How to load more frequent friends posts at the same time as users scroll. So Ari Chayo is asking a very specific technical question on how to load frequent friends posts at the time as the user scroll. Well, I honestly don't know how to do it with Firebase. That's kind of why I use Strapi. But like with Strapi, you will just, let me see. So I have, I'll show you. It's actually very straightforward. So let's say we have votes on, and you can do the Strapi course to check how to change votes in a proper way to avoid data leakage and abuse and stuff. I'm just gonna put a collection type called articles, and I'm gonna have it have votes, and it's gonna be a number. So it's gonna be just a number, the votes, and I'll show you. It's really straightforward. So if you want to sort by votes, we're gonna have article 1, the first one, and obviously always has been, and we're going to give it 12 votes, and then we're going to have the second one, always has been, and it's going to have 1 vote, and then I'll put a third article, third, always has been, and it's going to have 112 votes. So now let's say you want to have only the first 2 articles. You can just do, that's kind of I actually like this question, because it's this is like one of those videos that I never was able to figure out. So I really appreciate the question. So the localhost articles question mark. So you will do articles question mark limit. So we can limit by 2. So we can only retrieve the latest 2. So that would be the way to limit the amount. And then you would just do sort, and sort will be, I think, descending, and descending on the votes. So it will be sort by votes, colon, desk. And we get an internal server error. Expected a positive integer, got none. Let me check. Maybe there's a... Let me see. Maybe there's like a mistake. Oh, man, there's one. Let me just make sure that I didn't, because maybe it's desk votes, but I don't remember, because I don't remember off the top of my head. Ah, no, there you go. That's the mistake. So you have to, because it's two query parameters. So it's going to be sort by votes, column, desk. Boom. There you go. So you want to sort by most popular, limited by the amount. There you go. That's how you do it with Strapi. So you can do that. There's a filter API, which is extremely powerful. Most people think that Strapi is just a CRUD tool, but the truth is it's a fully fledged content API. So there are a lot of kinks in the armor. There's a lot of stuff to criticize about Strapi, but if you use it as a very powerful API builder, it's the best API builder I've ever found. And I know I'm starting to get accustomed to a few more, but from my experience, these are the most straightforward. So how do you investigate this even further? You go on the documentation and you click on Content API parameters. You just read this over. Boom. This is so powerful. You're going to be shocked. At this time, I do not have a Patreon yellow cab. Honestly, if you want to support me, you can buy my content, like my course, or you can work with me on Code Mentor. So if you ever end up needing help, this time that's what I offer. So you can come on Code Mentor, Alex V. You can just work with me, and there's probably a link somewhere else that gives you like $10 off. But I appreciate the thought. So if you want to make a donation on my name, just do a donation to a charity. That's probably the best thing you can do. So I'm going to hang out for another 4 minutes if you have any quick question. At the end of the day, this video, if you want to look back at it, started with a couple of niche topics such as using authentication. This topic right here is like the one that I'm not really comfortable talking about, although I'm getting tons of traffic on it. So maybe I should get comfortable and should just make more videos on it. So let me know if you want me to cover more authentication. I could do like a fully fledged Auth0 example. I think that would be the most like the most badass thing I can do for the entire authentication discussion. It's just, this is how you do it with Auth0. This is 100% safe. It's professional. It scales. It's cost effective. It's secure. It's probably the best thing that we can all have. And at the end of the day, the main topic of this video, we're actually just honestly, this is literally the lesson. It's like learn equals feedback. So I've received a lot of criticism on the way I built my course. And I think it's fair criticism. I respect that. But I think that you want to learn from why I did it. So initially, my course, when I launched it, was just 9 hours. So you can go on Udemy and type Strapi, or you can type whatever. It's like the first one. But like, this course has 26 hours now. So you can say that this course took me July. So it probably took me like 10 months. It's been 10 months of work that I've been working on this course. I haven't been working full-time on the course. I've been working less than part-time. I would say 1/5 of my time goes to the course compared to actually consulting. But that's still like 3 months of full-time work, like 10 hours a day of for 3 months. That's basically what it is. And so it started off very simple because I had to figure out if people wanted it. I didn't know if anybody cared. I literally didn't know. So there's only two ways. There's only one way in which you can know if people care, which is to do it and try to sell it. That's it. So learn equals feedback. You build something and you see if people want it. In the same way, I had to teach Strapi to myself. And I've been working with Strapi for over a year before I started teaching it. That's why I was so confident it was such a good tool. So I knew there was the potential because I've been using it for a year, over a year. But like, I had to teach it to myself. I had to teach even to teach in a way, or do screen share and stuff. So I started by just making the videos while talking on the documentation. And the reason why I would do that, the reason why I would recommend you doing that and you getting accustomed to this idea is that while you can say it's lazy, and I respect that, it is lazy, it is. But at the same time, it's realistic. If you're going to code, you're not going to code in a vacuum. You're going to open up the documentation and find an example. That's why Stripe is the #1 API for payment in the world. It's not because it's better. It's not because it's cheaper. It's not because it was financed. It's not because it was backed by YC Combinator. Stripe is the #1 API for payment processing because when you click on developers, literally when you click on developers, they make it so easy that you just click a button and they do it for you. That's why. Because even if you've never coded in your life, I bet that if you follow a Stripe tutorial, you're going to be able to implement it. And so that's why documentation is so important. In the case of Strapi's documentation is that good. So I would highly recommend you use it, even though as a teacher, you can say it's lazy. And also since I have a second monitor, like I have an iPad, I may as well just put the documentation on the iPad and not show that I use it, that's like how you make a course and you look like super expert, by the way. So that's the secret. Now you know the secret. But that's the point that I was trying to make, is always learn equals feedback. So even if it's not in the documentation, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna try. You're just gonna see. Like we had a bug with sending emails today, which I spent maybe 20 minutes trying to fix and figure out at least. And you just try. You go to the server. You try adding the URL parameter. You go on the open source repo on GitHub, and you just figure out, because the truth is learning equals feedback. You learn in the measure in which you try something and you see its efficacy. That's how you learn. That's what learning is. Learning is the act of understanding whether something works or not. Because understanding it here is not gonna do any difference. It's literally just entertainment. So I truly hope anything that I tell you, you're gonna put into action. I believe that if you do what I did and you just copy what I did, you're gonna have the same result. So in the same way, I hope that you can find your own endeavors, such as building your own company, providing your own consultation agency, running your own freelancing business, and you're going to be able to be successful at it. At the end of the day, it's based on very simple principles. And the main principle is you just want to be a good person. Like you literally just want to be a good person. That's literally the summarization of this over 2 hours of live stream is just be a good person. Put the interest of the person that is going to pay you ahead of yourself for 10 minutes and try to give them what they want. Instead of telling them that you're the best. So when you do an application for a job, don't tell them I'm the best, hire me, which nobody cares. Just tell them what they want to hear. Just tell them how you're going to do it. Look, you need to paint a house. Don't tell me you're a painter. I don't give a shit. Tell me how you're going to paint it. Tell me how you're going to help me. Tell me why it's worth doing it with you, and then make it easy. Tell me that if you click the button there, you can give me, you can give me a quote and you can give me an estimate, or you're going to give me the estimate for free, or you just want to take it to the next step, get it on the phone, getting on the email, whatever. Just do that. So that's really all it takes. What are your thoughts on working as freelancer with big tax? 100% lifestyle. I think FANG lifestyle is pretty badass. Like you can go on, like let's say you're gonna live in San Francisco, which I've spent a month, a cumulative time of a month last year in San Francisco. So you want to live in San Francisco for some time, maybe for 4 years. You want to work. You are gonna work fairly hard, and you want to be surrounded by people that are super smart, doing something that has huge impact, and being paid a shit ton of money. Dude, who wouldn't want it? Like I would be surprised if anybody wouldn't want it. Like if tomorrow Facebook calls me and if they offer me, let's say Oculus calls me and I get to work with John Carmack, and they offer me maybe 150 grand or 200 grand, and they also give me an H1B. Like I would have personally like a life crisis on making that decision, because on one end you have the freedom that freelancing and being an entrepreneur gives you, which is very important and it's very cool. But at the same time, like the security but it's not only secure, which like you could argue there's the golden handcuffs on being paid a lot of money and just, doing what you're told. But the reality of it is that it's actually a pretty cool lifestyle. Like to be surrounded by people that share the same values as you, they work as hard as you, they actually believe in the things that you're doing, they are committed, they're positive people. Most of them, like they're actually very smart and very positive people in general. In a place that is fairly beautiful. Like we could argue San Francisco is ugly, but I think it's a fairly cool place to live in. You're like 2 hours away from Yosemite and stuff, and you can go. You're in California, which is one of the cultural cornerstone of the world. So I think it's pretty cool. I think if you are in a position where you have to make the decision, I wouldn't envy you. I think it's a very tough decision, and but I also think you have to make the decision that are realistic to you. So even for myself, look at my opportunity cost for me to spend the next 3 months to apply to FANG versus just doing what I'm doing. It probably wouldn't be as fun. It probably wouldn't be as satisfying. And I get to call my shots. So I also really enjoy that. And I guess the main lesson that I learned as freelancer versus, let's call it entrepreneur, freelancer versus working for a big company is that you have all these conventions and you kind of learn why they are there. Like you learn why 9 to 5 is actually a great idea. You learn why lunch shouldn't last too long. You learn why you need structure. You learn why there's a designer and there's a coder. Like you actually learn the reason why. And honestly, the reason why is because your brain has to work in compartments. There's a video from Casually Explained where he talks about productivity. And the example he gives is that every person that was very prolific had a separate house in which they would work. Why do you think is that? It's because you were separating your brain from the place in which you rest to the place in which you work. And so by creating that environment, it literally creates a different physiology in your own brain. So I think it would be a very tough decision to be like that. And I don't envy somebody that is in that position because it's not easy. But I 100% believe that whatever decision they make is worth making. So if you have that opportunity, man, I totally give you props for it. Props for you. And then whichever decision you make is the right one. Don't worry about which one you make, but whichever you make is the right one. You just have to live with the consequences, and it's fine. I'll tell you this thing. They say like good times make no easy times make weak people, and weak people make bad times, etc., etc. The entire point is true of work as well. So paradoxically, like let's say you work for the next 6 months and you work at a company or you work at a project that lasts long. Because you will find that even as a freelancer, as an entrepreneur, you're going to have a relationship that lasts a little longer than a day. Like I had 500 clients in a year, okay, 490, whatever. But like of those people, some of them are repeated customers because we just build a relationship. It's normal. So the point is when you work on that, you're going to be under pressure, and the pressure gives you that linear growth. It's something that you can see in the economy. That's called the rate of productivity. The rate of productivity increases linearly. It always increases, always goes up because people get smarter with time. Just like I'm teaching you, the effort I had to make to teach myself is stronger than the effort you are going to have to teach yourself the same topics. And since you exercise less effort, you're going to learn even more. You're going to be smarter than me because you're using me as a resource. It's natural. Just like you would hope that your children are smarter than you because you taught them. It's just they learn faster. So in the same way, you have this linear growth. But then what happens when you end the project is that typically you have the pressure of doing something new. Where something new is because maybe you need the money. It could be pressure of getting more money. It could be pressure of having deadlines, or it could also be existential angst, right? What am I doing with my life? Whatever, right? You can also have that. Those are all powerful motivators. And once that kicks in, once the pressure kicks in, you typically find that the true lessons that you learned in the previous job, you actually are able to apply them way faster. So you typically have a growth that is not exponential, but I will call it like a step size growth. So instead of being here, the next job you're going to be here. Because by changing by going under the pressure of that moment of change, you actually explode. Because all of this tension, all of this stress, all of those lessons learned, slowly, the grind, you actually can express it by changing completely. So you'll find that every time you change job, you make way more money. That's basically it. Every 6 months, most people that change jobs every 6 months in 3 years tend to make twice as much as people that don't change jobs. So take that as you will. And that's because you keep upping up the ante versus using that daily grind. The daily grind keeps you focused too much on the detail. And so you end up losing the forest for the trees. So sometimes you want to take a breather. In my case, if I were to stop my working relationships, the current working relationships that I have, I would literally take a month off. Because I'll tell you, let's say I take a month off after what I did, which is basically 10 months of let's say 6 months of never taking a day off. Let's call it that, even though it's not technically true, but let's just argue that. So what's going to happen is that the first week, I'm going to do nothing. I'm just going to do nothing. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do anything. But then after a week, my, let's call it existential angst or just curiosity will kick in. I already have opened up a course in Stanford. By the way, it's a very cool course. It's called Stanford UI Swift. Yeah, Stanford Swift UI, which is literally the 2020 course for Stanford. I already know I will do this. Like, give me a day off. I'll just start learning something else because that's how, that's like my natural inclinations. And so that's what happens. Like you work, you get the pressure, and then you change, and then you rest. And when you rest, your natural inclinations, your aspirations, your ambitions, they come out naturally. They come out because you can't keep them in you. And that's when you realize that that's kind of the path you're just meant to do it, because it's it. And the reason why I'm taking this is because in they said they leaked Apple Glass, and I'm a huge fan for augmented reality, although I have no experience in it. I just like this stuff. So I'm learning Swift UI because I want to develop for this stuff. So the second this comes out, I'll buy it, even if, because I'm just curious. I wanted to buy this, the Vuzix, because they offered a developer, very competitive developer program, but they never became that popular though. So I don't know if, I honestly can't speak of whether there's a good business here. I just thought I was really curious. So, and this is like the natural thing, and they come up naturally. So in the same way, you wouldn't go back to asking less money after you already grinded it out. So that's literally the principles you're leveraging. So I'm gonna go on, it's hard for sure. Yeah, basically that's really it, man. Like you wanna, like they say, pressure makes diamonds. That's true. Pressure makes diamonds, but the diamond comes out when the pressure is done. That's what I want to add to the discourse is this is what make the diamond. And if I look at my own work, this is what made the diamond. Working every day, making the videos, making the course, answering the questions, being here, continually grinding, talking to 50 people a week, continually grinding, doing the entire thing. But that's not where you see it. You don't see the diamond here. You just see a stressed man that worked hard. That's what you see. But you'll see the diamond when I stop growing, when I decide to cash in meaning for a moment I take a break, I actually let myself rest, I let myself recover. That's when you see the diamond. That's when you see the real growth. Going back to the entire thing, the entire motto of this video, I guess, at this point, it was feedback is learning. That's what it is. So I guess this is a good way to wrap it up. Think about the things that you can get feedback on and try to get it as much as you can. Most people have to pay to get feedback. That's the reality, because everybody else is too nice. Your friends will tell you that you're great. Your family will tell you that you're great or whatever, but it's not real feedback. The real feedback is, did the customer want to work with you? Did they come back? Did they not come back? Did they leave a positive review? Did they not leave a positive review? Everything else is irrelevant. And you have to learn how to discern between feedback that is worth it and feedback that is not. Even here, like I had a comment related to not making a paid plugin. You have to know yourself. Like you have to also look at what motivates you. Like if I have to develop, like if my brain works that if when I develop, I have to be paid, how am I going to start doing free work? I'll just probably do free work in the marketing or consulting. I'll do something else for free, but I can't because my association in my brain are there. So I already have, you have to know yourself basically. And again, it goes back to learn equals feedback. So with that said, I'm just going to wrap up. I very much appreciate your time. And I hope this truly brings you to take action on some items. So I'm seeing 4 people in the chat. If you want to write the action items that you want to take action on, that way you can commit publicly. It's pseudo public because most people here, you don't necessarily know the other people. So you can just put a message of what you're going to do in order to take action, to get more feedback, to basically get better results in your business or in your learning. So feel free to use the chat to share that message, that action that you're going to take. So that way we can keep you accountable on that. And that way you know that you're going to do it, because there's actually a few people, even if just 4 people, that actually, they actually want you to succeed, because we want you to succeed. I want you to succeed, because you succeeding means that I can succeed as well. Just like I succeeding means that you can succeed as well, because we are in the same team. We're doing the same thing there's no reason for us to be hostiles with each other. So in the same way, if you want to share your ambitions and your goal for this week, you can do that in the chat, or you can just say what you're going to take action on. In my case, I'm going to take I may actually do the next differences. I'll need to think about it for a second, but I'm definitely going to make videos on the topics that we covered, because for sure I'll do the lifecycle methods, because I need to do that for the course. So that's coming up in the course this week, 100%. And I think I'll do this next getting started to see if I can get some new views. And maybe I'll do also the Create React App versus Next. So I'll do one between the Create React Apps and the Get Started with Next as a way to see if my audience is engaged with it. And I'll also do the Lifecycle Methods video for the course, because obviously the course needs that, because we don't have that in the automation section. Again, that's the entire talk. Thank you very much for your time. Mehdi's going to work on the portfolio. I'm going to hang out for like a minute or so. I'll just finish my coffee and I'll call it a day. Thank you very much for hanging out, and have an amazing day. How long was this thing? 2 hours and 30. No, 3 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, this is a little too long, but I think it was fun. I think we can do something similar. Maybe I should try and do it later though. The problem is lighting. The lighting on late at night is not that good. I would need to buy a couple of lights or something. So it makes it very impractical, because, you know, seeing like a dark figure talking to you is probably creepy. So that's it. Thank you very much. Take action on the topics. I'm just gonna go off, and I truly wish you an amazing success and an amazing day. Ciao.